in the pandemic. And during that, we could teach them to be kind, to be accepting, to be there for children, regardless of race, color, sexuality, or anything else. But we do not have to teach our youngest of children the most sensitive of topics at this moment in time. And there's an age appropriateness to all of this. And the stuff that I've been reviewing had absolutely no appropriateness and no place in the classroom. So I'll take a couple of questions that people want, but I just want to brief, everybody and let them know what's going on in the state. Yes.
What would happen if the town decides to not follow what the Department of Education mandates on? So if they say, no, we're not going to do it, because we don't agree, what happens then?
Well, this is where it's getting interesting, because the Department of Education is now backpedaling, saying that communities don't have to do it and they were just guidance. But yet the resolution that got adopted at that June 3rd, 2020 meeting says every school district shall adopt in its entirety the guidelines being put forth. So now the governor's office has indicated they're putting a halt on it to provide additional guidance to all of our school districts. Because I've been speaking to a lot of Board of Ed members, I've been speaking to a lot of superintendents who are going, we have no idea what it is even that we are to implement. We've gotten no guidance from the Department of Education other than links on their website. And some of those links were to this model curriculum that I was just speaking of. So as a result of the backlash, as a result of parents flooding the Department of Education's phone lines, all of a sudden it's, well, we're going to take a second look at this. This is the exact moment in time to have your voices heard. And one of the things is they go, well, parents can opt out. Even myself as a parent, I have never opted out of anything because I always believed in my school district teaching the appropriate things to my child. Parents are also unaware that simultaneously with that adoption, there was another adoption of a legislative initiative to incorporate all of these topics into every subject. So it's now going to be in math, it's going to be in science, it's going to be in social studies, it's going to be in every single subject that your kid has, and you can't opt out of all of that. So it's kind of like, how much do we want to just kind of flood our kids with all of these topics in every subject, and then have to do supplemental sex ed starting at the earliest ages to also put that on there. So it's a function of really start paying attention. I had never read my own kids like cold read assignments and stuff until he was home with me. I mean, I redid third grade. It was awesome. I read Charlotte's Web, but I also was reading certain, social studies stuff. And if you as a parent start to read some of the social studies that your kids are learning about, you're going to be a little bit horrified at some of the lessons. And so I just impress upon every parent, take a look at what your kids are doing. If you feel it goes too far, go to your Board of Ed and talk to them and start pushing back. Okay?
Just a general statement. A lot of what is being pushed down from an agenda standpoint might be bigger than the council's ability to affect or control. But not communicating, not being transparent in the local school, that is within their control. To slip in recent coursework around gender acceptance and all this stuff that was recently delivered to some children, slipping in between a bulletin of what sort of lunch and this and that, is not exactly transparent. And so we have kids who went and got a lesson in gym class for a day that they left there pretty surprised and shocked and in disbelief, and actually came and shared with us. We found out sort of after the fact, right? But we don't miss a text when it's, crazy sweater day, crazy sock day, or everything the heck else. We hear about all that stuff when it's Spirit Day. We need texts and emails and everything else. So where's the transparency?
And that's one of the biggest issues. And another thing that parents need to be aware of, as well as all of that during the pandemic, there was also a bill passed where you used to have to opt in for the school to do certain surveys of your children. They took that away during the pandemic. And now you as a parent have to opt out of these surveys. So they can ask about your child's sexual orientation, what you do as a parent, any of this sort of stuff. And you now have to affirmatively opt out of your child participating in that. And it's one of those things that a lot of parents, you get the green folder. Who looks at the green folder? You're getting 100 different emails a day. You're at work. So it gets slipped into a hyperlink on a green folder, and you have no idea it's there. And all of a sudden your kid comes home and goes, "Hey, Daddy, I took the weirdest survey today." And so those are the sorts of things that I'm speaking out with our school boards as well. I'm asking for transparency. I'm asking them to be open and honest with parents. And I know they don't want to sit there for 27 hours at a meeting because they're volunteers themselves, but it's also part of their job. And they have to be transparent with the parents of the kids that are entrusted to them. And so it's something that we keep fighting for. I keep fighting against a lot of these bills. I get called everything under the sun because I just believe that parents still need to have a say with their own kids.
Absolutely.
And there's this whole sort of new thought process that we're all terrible human beings in raising our own children, and so the schools have to raise them for us. And that's wrong.
Yeah, that's sort of the point. I would opt out if I could clearly know the options, but I'm not getting that communication directly.
Senator
So
Shapiz.
that's a big issue.
So for the opt-out piece, should the parents reach out to the superintendent and say, "Listen, I'm not interested"? Do they have to, because you said it's like a link on the page, because I know you go through all those forms. Can they ask for the superintendent to say, "Where do I opt out? Where do I opt out into certain areas of this?" Can they do that?
And we're putting together a resource for parents right now that we're going to start circulating to communities with parents knowing exactly how to opt out, where to opt out, what you can opt out of, and how to do so proactively. Okay?
I think, yeah.
I'm shocked because I feel like it's just common sense. In any other time in history, showing inappropriate sexual material to children is criminal behavior. When did that stop and become okay for teachers to do?
And you know what? Most teachers, I can't tell you how many teachers have actually reached out to my office saying, "Thank you, because we don't want to have to teach this. It's awkward for us. We're concerned about the backlash we're going to get from parents, from a kid coming home on some sort of inappropriate thing." And I think most school districts are pushing back, and most Board of Eds are pushing back, saying, "You know what, we're not going to teach the most extreme stuff." But people need to stay awake, stay aware, to know that this is what is being pushed in our respective schools. And, it's really interesting because even the governor's office was like, "Oh, that's just a model curriculum. It's not being used." One, it was on the state website. Two, it's being used, including in the very school district that the president of the NJEA is the mayor of. So how are you saying it's not being used? They interviewed the woman who actually wrote the curriculum, who's a professor of sexuality at Montclair State. And in her interview, she said, "Yes, this is the model curriculum that we're trying to get into every school district throughout all 50 states. So there's so much backpedaling right now, but it's kind of like, no, you got caught. This is what you were trying to do. And now you're trying to say, "Oh, parents are mad. So it's not what we meant to do."
It's called pedophilia, and it's illegal.
But also think about it. If you had any of these conversations at work, you'd be written up for harassment. And, so meanwhile, you can't have any of these conversations in a workplace as adults, but yet we're supposed to be putting it in the classrooms. And that's where I believe it to be just upside down world right
I
now.
appreciate what you did posting it on Facebook, but until politicians start calling it pedophilia, it'll continue. You have to call it what it is. Pedophilia. It's inappropriate.
Well, some of those videos I find to be extraordinarily inappropriate, and I agree with you. And the one interesting part about it, since I actually exposed it, all of a sudden they changed. And the website, if you go to it now and click to follow our YouTube channel, they now have a disclaimer that wasn't there a week ago,
So
saying,
it's not meant for parents to see, it's meant only for the children.
and the disclaimer now says, if you're under a certain age, there may be sensitive topics being covered in some of these videos.
Discuss.
I'm curious, shouldn't we leave the decision up to like the superintendent, which we ultimately as voters hired through the school board? And what is specifically our superintendent? What is their views? You reached out to the superintendent?
The superintendent for the Westwood Washington Township School District, I think, has very little intention of adopting what those model curriculum were. The place that it was given to was Westfield. That happened to be actually the prior superintendent for your school. And so it's something that you do have to just, reiterate to your superintendent, reiterate to your Board of Ed members that, we just want reasonable things being taught to our kids.
Sure.
Okay?
One thing, what's reasonable to you may not be reasonable to other people.
Right.
So it should be left up to the educational professionals, not the politicians.
I agree, but sometimes things do get on both sides a little bit too far, and it's trying to come to something in the middle.
That's always-
So first, thanks for coming and speaking on it, creating some awareness around it. The second, besides voting, right, there's something we as parents can do, like here or at school board meeting, or resolution or something like that, help raise a voice. Or is it just send emails, like, how can we come together and make something bigger, louder, stronger?
And one of the reasons actually that the governor actually took a step back on this is because the number of emails and phone calls going down to the governor's office as well as the State Department of Education. People have no idea about this, but all of the appointees on the State Board of Education who actually implement all these policies, they are not elected. They are bureaucrats who are appointed. Every single one of those seats is currently up. So if, for something that nobody even is aware that it exists, I think it's going to be very important to ensure that there is a mixture of people who are going to be appointed to that State Board of Education, because they are the ones who promulgate and dictate administratively what the schools in the state must teach.
So then two questions. One, is a resolution worthwhile, either here in this setting or in a school board? And two, who are they appointed by?
The governor. So it's something that at least at your school boards, a resolution at your school board about, what your superintendent, what your Board of Ed wants to see moving forward. A lot of people even said, even if they embrace the new curriculum, they said the timing of this is just so out of whack. And there was a lot of pushback from almost every superintendent in the state, from Hoboken to Camden to Bergen County, saying, we as superintendents, we as teachers, we as school boards are struggling through so much trying to get our kids back on track with just basic educational materials after the 2-year lag. And now you're telling us that we've got to change every textbook, every curriculum, everything that we're doing. And every couple of months, there's a new legislative initiative to further change stuff. And so the schools are getting bogged down with, whoa, we need a breather. We need to be able to get our feet back on the ground. And we need some help from the state to stop just keep putting these new things in front of us. And so that's one of the things that I think the more local school boards, the more superintendents that just have a reasoned voice saying, can we just put a pause and let our kids learn what they need to learn and revisit this, I think that's probably one of the strongest things we can do right now. Okay?
I'll second that gentleman's comments. Thank you all. And I thank your previous council for providing just a couple comments you made. I think kind of the pendulum has really swung in it right. I think your notion of, from what I understand, a lot of this curriculum was developed back in 2020, which was right smack in the middle of COVID. And what we've learned from 2020 to today is we have what's called learning poverty, where we've got it all over the country, all over the state, all over our district. And to your point, we're now focusing on this pendulum rather than reading, writing, arithmetic, social studies, science, days of the week if you're in kindergarten.
And mental health services for a lot of our kids.
The social, emotional, psychological stuff is also as well. I guess my question to you is, obviously, we understand what you do on all of this. How do you kind of identify the other representatives in the state who are kind of favoring the pendulum and not the reading, writing, and the rest of it?
What's fascinating is, and I'm not going to proverbially out them right here, but I have spoken to so many of my Democratic colleagues who are senators representing Bergen, representing South Jersey, representing a whole host of places who have said, we absolutely agree with you, and have called the governor, have called the governor's chief of staff, and have said, we need clarification for all of our schools to understand what they actually need to do, and we disagree at this moment in time with things going so far. So I think it's a function of all of the senators in Bergen, send an email and say, thank you for speaking up. Thank you for your concerns. We share them as interested parents. Let's focus on the core items to get our kids back to where they need to. Let's focus on what the sex ed curriculums have been, and if this needs to be revisited, we'll revisit it. But at this moment in time, it makes no sense. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now I'll leave you guys to the fun part of your meeting.
Sorry, we really appreciate you coming. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll let you know there are other campaigns in other states. Connecticut is currently fighting this along with Pennsylvania. And a few of the school districts there have now won, and they're not adopting it. So I think, thank you for coming, Senator Spizzi, and sending the emails, and whatever you can do in writing and phone calls is your best. I plan on emailing and calling.
All right, thank you. Now we have Father Ray, who would like to speak to the council, the town. Okay, you can come on up. If you want to speak at the podium so everyone can hear you, or okay.
Do you want the microphone?
Or do you want the microphone? Would that be better so you can face?
Whatever's best.
Microphones.
Better.
My back is going to be to somebody.
Yes, right, it's okay. It could be to us.
I'm not here to speak on the topic that the senator spoke on, but I certainly do want to add my name to the list supporting what you're doing to protect our children from what I would consider child abuse. But no, I'm here on behalf of Our Lady of Good Counsel Church for two reasons. One, somebody posted on the Township Facebook webpage or website, whatever you call Facebook, that Our Lady of Good Counsel is closing. I'm here to say we are absolutely not closing. Whoever made that statement, I don't know where they got their information, but I assure you, the pastor, Father Stephen Cinque, myself, the associate at Our Lady of Good Counsel, and hopefully the next pastor, would have heard if this was even remotely being considered. So no, we're financially solid. Our numbers are bouncing back after the pandemic set us back like it set everyone else back. So we are strong, and we are going to get very strong again, I assure you. So please. Thank you. was very disturbing for some of my senior members when they saw that, and they were fearful. They loved their church. I love our church. We're here to stay. All right, so the real reason I'm here is because somebody, maybe the same person, I don't know, but on Easter Sunday, had the nerve to come onto our property and begin sticking flyers into everybody's car windshield or into the handle of their car regarding the issue of the DPW buying Charlie Brown property. Now, I'm taking no position on that. I'm happy having the town rent from us. I'll miss the rental income.
Let's subdivide.
But the real issue is that no one has the right to come onto our property and post flyers of any kind. Okay, we don't permit it for our own people, for issues we believe in, because let's face it, we may all worship the same God, we may all be part of the same Catholic Church, but that doesn't mean we all think the same way. So, in fairness to all of our parishioners, we allow no one to put anything on anyone's private vehicle. And so, to that end, the pastor, Father Cinque, wrote a strongly worded letter, but appropriate, I feel, to the website change.org, et cetera, et cetera. And so just wanted you to be aware of what he wrote. To whoever is in charge, I want to complain in the strongest way that you are out of line to enter our property on Easter Sunday to place a political flyer on the cars of our parishioners. This is church property and nobody is permitted to place anything on our property without the pastor's permission. We have never permitted anyone to place flyers on parishioners' cars. Also, we do not permit any kind of political campaigning on our grounds. This violates our tax-exempt status. I demand a written apology from you immediately so that I can place it in our parish bulletin. Never again attempt to enter our property for your political activities. If you do so, I will seek legal action. Signed, Reverend Stephen Cinque, pastor of Our Lady of Good Counsel. And he forwarded this on to our archdiocesan legal counsel as well. So they now have this all in their record and are standing by. But hopefully this is the end of it. I just wanted to come before you and just put it out there. Please don't do that. If you're the person involved or persons involved, I'd be happy to speak with you privately, individually, but don't go about it in this manner, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you, Father.
No prayer? I'll go with the prayer.
Thank you. Okay. We now have a proclamation from Mayor Calamari and Council Vice President Feeney. Mr. Joyce? He's not here?
Yes, he's a
Okay. Do you have the microphone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Want me up here?
yes, please. Jim, you should be honored that all these people turned out just for you to have this proclamation read. Yeah. But, I'm sure most, if not all of you know Jim Joyce, longtime resident of the community, and 55 years. Let me say, he volunteers for everything in sight. With public affairs, he's in on all the meetings, no matter what event, even if, it's not necessarily senior oriented, he's there for the kids, so everything. So we thought it was the time to issue him a proclamation. So Stacy, I'd like for you and I to read it. Maybe we can alternate paragraphs. Okay, I'll start off. Whereas James Joyce has been a resident of the Township of Washington since 1968, married to Jacqueline Joyce for 61 years, raised his 3 children here, and is the grandfather of 6 grandchildren, 3 boys and 3 girls. And
Whereas Jim Joyce is being honored today for the decades he has dedicated to the Township of Washington, is an energetic and tireless volunteer for the betterment of the residents who has enriched the quality of life in the township, and
Whereas James Joyce has contributed positively to the Township of Washington, where he has lived for 54 years and contributed in a myriad of ways, and
whereas those ways include volunteering with the 9/11 Committee, Town Day Committee, Tree Lighting Festival, Menorah Lighting Event, is the president of the Golden Seniors, president of the Washington Township Radio Club, a retired engineer, a retired college professor from Stevens Institute of Technology, and is an Army veteran, and
whereas James Joyce will be celebrating his 84th birthday on May 31st, and
whereas James Joyce is revered and loved by all who know him and has been hailed as a legend in his own time and has been a positive impact on the residents of the Township of Washington.
now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Peter Calamari, and Councilwoman Stacy Feeney of the Township of Washington in the County of Bergen in the state of New Jersey, now proclaim to all assembled here today and to the residents of the Township of Washington to recognize April 18th, 2022 as James Joyce Day in the Township of Washington.
And be it further resolved that I encourage everyone to thank James Joyce for all he has contributed to our community and to reflect on all the lives he has touched and all the smiles he has created throughout his life for many years to come. Thank you, Mr. Joyce, for making Township of Washington a better place, and God bless.
Thank you, James. Thank you all.
Does this mean I get my own parking space?
Let's not get carried away now.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yes. Okay, general public comment. Limits of 5 minutes per speaker. To participate in the general public comment portion of the meeting, please click on the link below to join the webinar. If by phone, *9 to raise hand, *6 to unmute. General public comment will be limited to 1 hour. Actually, we're going to make it an hour and a half tonight because there are so many. An hour and a half to allow the governing body to address other town business. Each person wishing to address the council shall give his or her name and home address for the record, and we ask that only one person speak at a time with a 5-minute limit. Speakers are to direct all questions to the council president. When the speaker is finished with the questions or statements, the council will respond. All members of the public and council are expected to conduct themselves in a proper manner. Any derogatory, abusive, or threatening statement will not be permitted, and the council president will immediately rule such conduct out of order and terminate any further comments. Motion to open public comment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone who would? Go ahead, go first, yep.
Is this where we should talk about Catholic schools and
After you state your name and address.
Paul Imbarato, 191 Linwood Avenue, with my wife Christine. 28 years here in Washington Township. And so obviously a big topic. I believe a lot of people are here regarding the DPW and the acquisition of the Charlie Brown's facility. So There's plenty of people here that are going to argue about it's the wrong spot and what it's going to do to building an industrial building in a residential area. But I want to just touch on the costs and the usage of the size of the property where it's not going to work. So my background is I own a landscape site construction company and I'm a developer. I developed a subdivision in this town. I'm building 60 units in River Edge, industrial facilities in Clifton, Marlboro. I have a very big tenure in doing what I do. So what I'm going to do here, I'd be more than welcome to, answer any questions. So I went ahead and I finally looked at the site plan yesterday that Carrie and Ivino did. And obviously it's not a full site plan, it's very conceptual. But doing this work and doing these size projects, I'm very aware of being able to give a rough estimate without having full detailed construction plans. So the purchase of the property is 1.3 million, closing costs, lawyers, environmentals, about 100,000, design engineering, traffic studies, another 150, demo site prep, removals, 200,000, site work, drainage, utilities, the oil separation that needs to be built, building a warehouse like that where you're going to be repairing trucks is about 650,000. 13,000 square foot building at $230 a square foot is 3 million. A salt shed and recycling bins is another 650,000. Paving, landscaping, screening, interior site, just making it clean is about 600,000. Exterior site improvements, traffic control, if in fact the Bergen County Planning Board is going to make it, which it will probably need to be done, is probably going to be about $800,000. And your generator that I saw is probably going to cost about $100,000. So all that together with the land and the building construction, I came up with $7.5 million. Okay, so now obviously I will say that I did not have full construction documents, but this is what I do every day. So I will get more detailed into square footages, and this is something that I did very quickly today. But I also welcome if, in fact, the municipality has a detailed cost proposal over and above the cost of the land for us to review, because this is our tax dollars and we are paying taxes here. That being said, my biggest beef is that, like I said, I've been there 28 years, same spot. I've been walking back and forth from Charlie Brown's. I walk my dogs, pick up the poop in that parking lot, and I know it very, very well. The exact design that is for us to review does not work. The circulation flow for travel and dump trailers, it's not big enough. Where they have it all laid out, you cannot get a triaxle dump truck from the Port of Newark to be able to turn around back into the salt shed. You cannot, in the conceptual, it shows a tractor trailer, which I find quite amusing, that there's no way a tractor trailer can turn around in that parking lot. Now, if you're utilizing pulling into the road and backing into the salt shed, that obviously, I don't think that's what the intent is, but you can't do it. It's just impossible. And I could go further and further and get more proof to it. I have civil engineers working for me. I have architects working for me. What's that?
1 minute left.
Oh, you got it. The 32-foot in diameter salt shed will only hold 2 loads of salt. It's not enough to maintain the town. You have 12 employees. You're not giving them enough parking. So I welcome, and I've talked to the mayor. He's actually coming to my facility in Clifton on Thursday to give you guys some insight of what the size of a property that you need to functionally do this. I also would like to review, have the opportunity with your consultants to review exactly what the plan is. Okay, so I don't know what basis where you're at. I would like some information on how far along you are with the design intent. And I honestly think it was funny with Father Ray. I know for a fact the Archdiocese of Newark is looking for people to subdivide and utilize properties. And, right now you're storing trucks right at Our Lady of Good Counsel. And I bet you there's an opportunity to talk to them. That's an acre and a half up above that slopes down. You could build retaining walls and you could move it over there. I go back to Rudy Wenzel, and I designed at Sherry Field an alternate site for the recycling.
I'm sorry, your time is up. You can just finish your
Thank
thought.
you.
Yep.
So anyway, so Rudy was very concerned that the recycling here was not enough. So when we were designing, and we donated a lot of work to all the fields in town, at Sherry Field, we designed actually a 60-90 field there. And on part of it, on the right-hand side, we put the recycling facility there for the residents to come in and dump the grass and do all that stuff away from here. Obviously, that never happened, but there is alternate measures to be done. And you know what? Put in an industrial building in a residential neighborhood is not very smart.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And I hope people will take advantage of coming to our facility in Clifton. And I'd be more than happy to spend time, show you guys this amount of space that you need to put a loader on a truck and to turn a truck around.
Thank you.
And all the above.
Okay,
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you. Does anyone have any discussion? Anyone want to respond?
Mr. Mayor, the salt, we don't store all the salt we use. We pick up salt at the county on a regular basis, correct? We don't just store everything we need in town, just for your information.
We do store.
Still need to dump it in.
We
No, we
can't,
do- we do-
I'm sorry, hang on a second.
We do,
Just
we do
hang on,
store
Council-
some, but we
Council Vice
don't,
President,
we
hang on a
don't
minute.
keep it up.
hang on a second. I just wanted to be very clear. There's a lot of you right now. We cannot speak from the seats. So when the council responds, just let us finish our thought out. If there's anything more, then we'll email to follow up. But just to have a little bit of order, I don't want, we can't speak from the seats. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I know we don't store all the salt that we use, but we're required to store some salt on the site. Is that correct?
That is correct. Most of the salt that we do buy every season is stored at the county facility just 2 miles down the road. So what we keep in our salt shed is enough to get us through any one storm. And then when the storm is done, they refill our local salt shed.
So because those are some of the questions we've asked as this process has been going on about what's being stored there, what's being used. So I just wanted to confirm that. Thanks.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to come up?
Anything.
Someone can come up, anyone.
Hi, Patrick Fay, 107 Cosmo Street. I spoke with you guys a while back about the flooding we're having down by Sherry Field. I have a few things we could try. My brother-in-law is on the council in Pompton Lakes. And his wife is a landscape engineer. I would say the first few years that they lived there, they flooded to the point where they lost the whole bottom part of their house. And that happened 3 times to them. She got involved and they ended up, it's not dredging, it's desilting and desnagging, I believe. They had to walk the whole, the stream or whatever to figure out what the problems were. My brother-in-law was saying that now they use drones to pinpoint all the problems and all the down trees and stuff like that. So I was just wondering how far along, or if you guys have looked into that yet or not, I don't know. But it's getting to the point where every time it rains, as tonight, I'm going to go home. I've already, sandbagged the back of the door and, have to move the stuff out of the sheds, and everything from the basement's getting moved up. It seems like our home is probably getting hit worse than the other homes around us. Unfortunately, it takes time. I know it's going to take time for you guys to get something going. So I figured I could, maybe have you guys talk to Pompton Lakes Council, which they're more than happy to help other towns, and they have. So if that's possible, I'd appreciate if you guys would reach out to them and talk to them and see what they've done and how they control it. I know when it first is done, it's a little on the expensive side, but they have a program where every year they go through and clean out what's fallen trees or what's the desilting and stuff like that, which prevents the larger costs that happen when you first start. So that's all I really have to say, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. So I invited Mr. Kimmick here to speak if there are some questions, if you would like to speak to, this is the engineer. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. You can sit here. Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Hi, good evening, John Kimmick from Boswell Engineering. I'm not supposed to address the resident, but Council President, I didn't get that address. Was that 107 Cosmo?
Yes, that was.
Okay. I'm familiar with that location, checked the maps. I wrote down everything that the resident said, and I would suggest, if so directed by the mayor, to speak again with the resident, look at this Pompton Lakes alternative. The use of drones is a very good idea to document the stream and to find out where the problems arise. And just to start the discussions to see the extent of the problem, perhaps some costs, but that would be my suggestion, going forward.
Okay. I may call you up again a couple more times if that's okay.
That's fine.
Thank you.
So regarding
Just a second. Did you want to speak to him? To Mr. Kimmick?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Okay. Robert's rule, but go ahead. That's all. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean.
We'll talk about it after. That's okay. Go ahead. You can speak.
Okay. The location of Mr. Cosman backs directly onto Sherry Fields.
Yes.
And there already is a water issue there. Do you think that there's going to need to be additional drainage directed in other directions just from your general opinion, from what you've seen in that area, since we get a lot of water in the parking lot back there and on the field? Do you think we're gonna have to do a tremendous amount of work for?
Council President, I do not know yet. I don't know the scope of what we're discussing here and the amount of effort.
Right.
So until we get a plan together and I present it to the mayor and to Mr. Tovo on what our recommendations are,
Okay.
I really can't answer your question on how far of a scope this is. I just really don't want to say anything further.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. And I'll call you up again if you.
Madam President, may I?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Madam. John, I did use drones for Lincoln Park stream going all the way down Washington Avenue up until the Bethany Community Center. So I believe I still have the copy of the drones that we used to pinpoint the trees that are down, the clog in the brook. I'll try and get it to you by the end of the week.
That'd be great.
I might be able to borrow the drone again, and I'll go from where Cosman comes, and I'll try and copy all of that stream going all the way up.
No need, Councilman. Boswell has its own drone, and we can.
Well, I hope they use
it. Duly directed.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
President, may I make a comment?
Sure.
Thank you. Not to you, John, but to the residents. As you know, I've said the past few meetings that my mayor's association, this is one of the things we're working on. At last Wednesday's meeting, we meet for about 3 hours. I want to say about 90% of the meeting was dedicated to this topic because, as I've said before, we realize this is a regional problem. If we do something in Washington Township, but either Westwood, Park Ridge, and name any of the towns that are having flooding issues, if we don't do it all together, it's really not going to help the overall issue. That's not to say we're not going to clean our own stream or the Musquaxink in this place from things that we can do, like maybe clear the trees and things. But from what was explained to me, anytime you try and remove soil from a brook like that, it's considered by default a hazardous material because you don't know where that silt came from. And so the expense to take it out of there, the expense to dispose of it is quite large. And so we were advised that we have to start to reach out to someone like Josh Geitheimer to find federal funds because there was an Army Corps of Engineers study done back in '75, which is the last one. And that was referencing millions of dollars back then in '75 money. So, if anyone can do the math, it's been a long time. So as we all said, we just add a 0 or 2 onto all of those numbers. So it is a challenge, but mayors have said enough other mayors have kicked this problem down the road enough. We're actually going to, start an effort, but it's not going to be overnight as far as a regional solution. But like I said, we will do what we can to clear out our local thing from the trees down. Any help we can do at a reasonable price that the municipality can afford to do, we will do. And one thing, John, I would ask you maybe to reach out to the engineer in Pompton Lakes, because council to council, we won't get half of what you will get as an engineer. So if you would put that on your list to, spend a few hours, reach out to them and see what they've done at an engineering level. I think that's money well spent. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? You can come up.
Hi, I'm Jeff Rogers, 25 Woodfield Road. I'm here to talk about an issue with the Washington. I'm the vice president on the Washington Lake Association. I want to talk to you about one of the issues. On September 2nd, we had the major storm in town. The township DPW, there was a blockage at the school path. The DPW cleared it out, pushing all the branches downstream effectively from your property onto our property. And the township property between the school path especially and the lake was full of debris. So every major storm, the debris and tree branches, everything on that stream goes pushed and washed into the Lake Association property, which is wrong. Basically, you're transferring the financial responsibility of clearing the debris from the township because the branches are originating and the trees are passing through the township property into the Lake Association, affecting all 266 members, which is not fair. So I'm up here and I'm not going to read everything I wrote, but the bottom line is, how is the township going to properly maintain and clear that part of the stream and everything upstream so it prevents it from getting into our lake? Because when you have debris on your property, you can't just leave it there until nature pushes it to someone else's property. You need to take responsibility to move and clean up your own property before the garbage washes onto your neighbor's property. That applies to the township. It applies to me and my neighbors. So what will the council and the township do to prevent this from happening in the future? And that is my question.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess you don't have to answer it now.
No, we'll try. We'll try our best. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Have a seat. Okay. So can we speak to what's being done with DPW? Or?
Well, I'd like John to address that also, since it has to do with drainage, assuming he has anything to add to what he's already said.
I was with Councilman Sears and Mayor Calamari right after that September 1st storm. We toured the lake. We saw the massive amounts of debris that was at the two dams at the invitation of the mayor. So we are aware of the problem, and one of the items that we talked about was perhaps putting in what's known as either a turbidity barrier or a barrier before the Musquat sink empties into Schlegel Lake. That option is not a regulatory option by the DEP. In other words, you don't need a permit to install one. However, it has to be maintained on a regular basis. And me, as an engineer, I cannot commit to township forces and how often they would have to clean it. But that really is the only information I have that I could afford as an engineer. Some of that debris, to the mayor's point, it's a regional problem. Some of that debris comes from upstream, from Hillsdale. Maybe not a lot of it, but that adds to the question of, or the solution as a regional matter. Also, if we were to install a turbidity barrier to catch all the debris, I'm not certain if we would cause a undesirable effect to the homes that are in that area on, say, Cleveland Avenue, the back up to it. It's possible those backyards could flood, and we could have problems with those residents as well. So we understand the issue as the engineer, and those have been the advices that I've been given to the mayor and to Mr. Tovo. However, any sort of implementation would not come through this office.
Okay.
Could you explain that mechanism? Is it a catch-all, a dam? You said it had a name.
It's a boom.
A boom?
It's basically a floating rubber net. Yes, thank you. That try to put a technical term to something simple, but it's as simple as a net.
Catches the stuff before it gets to a point that doesn't clog the waterway, basically.
Yes, so it acts as a net. It might not look like a net, and it catches the debris. However, you have to, after a storm, you must clean it, and clean it quite frequently. So I don't mean to, kick the problem down the road, but there are certain demands in that as well.
When you say regularly, how often? What does that look like?
After every storm,
Okay.
and maybe even during a storm, which
Okay.
could get very difficult.
Okay.
Do most DPWs, like they go to clean it with a storm? Do they need like a boat, or where would you recommend to put it? They would just like you pull it in, or I don't know anything about it. That's why I'm asking these questions, and I'm sure most people.
I don't know how deep, what type of equipment DPW has, but you might have to use a boat. You might have, depending on the ferocity of the storm and the forecast, you might have to adjust it for the rainfall that we're getting. So it's a high maintenance type of item.
Okay. And that's just an option. All right. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm sure we're going to call you back up for
Thank you.
something. All right. Again, we are limiting this to an hour and a half, so I want to get to as many as we can. He's already walking up. Yep, you can come right up. Mr. Getz, you can come up after.
Anthony Passanante, 136 Sussex
Hi,
Road.
Anthony.
How are you?
Good. Thank you.
So I
How are
represent Washington Lake Association, 267 households. I sent some pictures in before. Can we pull those up?
you? Ricky's, yes, we're doing it now. Oh, there they are. Mhm.
This is probably better. This is what our dam looked like after Ida last year. Cost us $20,000 to clean it up. And the town didn't want to help us at all. It was spotless up until a week ago, until that last rainstorm we had. That's why you're flooding. So I did a presentation to you January 24th, 2022. At the council meeting, I presented to you about all the major flooding issues in our town. I explained to you how Washington Lake is filling in with silt, sediment coming directly from storm drains and the brook that haven't been maintained in 40 to 50 years. Massive amounts of debris flow from your brook into our lake, clogging up the dams that is causing flooding to your town and massive amounts of damage. I also explained how this can be fixed by dredging the north end of the lake so it can hold more water, dredge and clean up the entire brook so it can hold more water, and stop the flow of debris from entering our lake that clogs our dams. Also cleaning out all the catch basins around the lake and get them on a normal cleaning schedule. This was 3 months ago, and I see questions being asked, but I just want to see if any of these issues have been brought up with you. I'm just going to ask a few questions, and then maybe you can answer them when I'm done. At that council meeting, we also discussed a grant. It was called the Water Quality Restoration Grant that you were going to apply for. And we would have received enough money to dredge the brook and probably the whole lake. The deadline was February 28th, 2022. Was this ever applied for? And if it was applied for, I'd like to see the paperwork for it. Because that grant was probably the grant that we actually needed to take care of this lake. Probably a few $1 million. And if that wasn't applied for, I don't know why it wasn't applied for. Also at the council meeting, Casio and the engineer stated that the storm drains and catch basins have always been on a cleaning schedule and maintained. That was a complete lie. Councilman Sears and Councilwoman Desiree, myself, Jeff Rogers, and Bill Fahey walked the lake. Those storm drains were completely full, filled to the top. It doesn't just happen in 1 year. That was probably over the course of 25 to 30 years. And I see that you had sent guys that are cleaning those out recently, but that was only because I made that presentation. And they were doing it with shovels, which I think they're supposed to use a pump truck to clean those out. So the fact that I was lied to at that meeting is not the right thing to do. T. Calamari, this is for you. At your debate on October 12th, 2021, you were asked a question about flooding, and you claimed you formed a coalition with 10 local towns to combat the flooding of the streams. You stated that our streams have not been cleaned of debris or dredged for 50 years. What is the status on that coalition? This is what a lake looks like right now, after we just cleaned it. And what he's talking about, what John's talking about, a river boom, basically they put it at the footbridge. It goes across the river. When the debris comes down, it catches it. Water flows underneath. And you can easily back up a truck down that paved path.
Excuse me, 1
to
minute.
clean it out. When it hits our dam, we got to send little excavators in the back of people's yards and take it out by hand. It's a complete disaster. So what happens is, what happened with Ida was this dam clogged completely. This dam stopped working and everything rushed over to this dam. That's why everybody flooded downstream and everybody flooded upstream. Bethany Church, Washington Commons, people on the lake, people upstream, people downstream. And Rob, I'll let you take care of all the upstream stuff, okay?
Thank you, Anthony. We can answer what we can now.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, so Mayor, when Councilman Sears and I walked around the lake, the basins were packed. We talked to you about it, and then DPW started to go around and clean it out, correct?
Correct.
All right, and they were given, I know we had written a list, we had the whole list. Do we have a status where they are with that? Or how often they're gonna clean it out, or if they were able to get all of them, do you know?
I don't want to say I know offhand, but I will make a note and supply Anthony with that information, and the council, obviously.
Okay, so I need you guys to just keep it to as quiet as you can so that you can hear the responses.
Council President?
Okay. Sorry. Okay.
Council President, I believe they have two left that they went and got a power truck from Emerson to blow them out. And according to Mr. Lawler, they have all been cleaned except the two that they needed the truck. So,
Okay.
at this point.
And I do actually
They
have,
have that scheduled.
just a second, I do have the list here of everything that we had identified on that day and what has been done since. They did go through it all, what they did with it, treated it with powder. It looks like flow good. What wasn't good, they fixed, they flushed. So all of it is done. This is as of April 4th that it was received with the township clerk. I'm sorry, what did you say, Council?
Nothing.
Okay. So how often then, Mr. Mayor, are they expected to come and to continue to do this? Is it going to be after every storm? Is it, what is it, or before a storm? Like, what are they, do you know what the,
I have to check with the department on that.
okay,
Honestly, don't know the schedule offhand that's been set by them.
okay. So the second thing, the second question you asked, you said that you felt lied to. Was it Mr. Yakimic? Were you the engineer that he is speaking of at that meeting, or I'm not sure?
Yes, it has.
And Dr. Cassio? Okay. Is there any response, any comment?
To my knowledge, they're cleaned on a regular basis as per all the catch basins. And that's been reported in the past. Now they do fill it very quickly. We know that. So again, DPW has a responsibility. Hopefully that the administration is taking care of that.
Okay. So I think it goes without saying that we're going to obviously keep a watchful eye and expect to have an update like this routinely. So, Mr. Mayor, you'll follow up with Mr. Tovo and make sure this is maybe something that goes on the project tracker. I'm not sure where it should land, but it should be something that we have a watchful eye on, routinely looking for it.
Yeah, I mean, offhand, I would say it will be on some type of schedule and then as needed after a big storm where it might need more immediate outside the schedule addressing. But I will check on that.
Okay, and then I believe the last question was the status on the coalition.
I believe I spoke to that earlier when I referenced my meeting the other night at the mayor's meeting. That is the coalition that's been established. So I believe I've covered that. I just want to say you made a comment that we didn't want to help you. Nothing could be further from the truth. We want to help, but this has been an issue with the lake for years. It's a private lake. We cannot spend public money on a private lake. That's just a fact of life. John, perhaps you remember on the grant, I believe Boswell did the research and saw that we would not, yes, please.
Yes, please, thank you.
Thank you. That we would not be eligible for that grant. But offhand, I don't remember all the particulars about it. If you do, if you wouldn't mind speaking to that.
Yeah, we reached out directly to the DEP person in charge of that particular grant. And that grant was not for any desilting or desnagging whatsoever. It was only a grant for public entities to put together a plan for controlling items such as fertilizer running out onto a lake. So it had absolutely nothing to do with desilting or desnagging.
Was it close to the amount that the resident was speaking of? Millions or $250,000? I don't remember what it was. Millions?
Yeah.
Is that the same grant? Could it?
Yeah, it was millions available throughout the entire state.
Okay.
Madam, may I speak?
Yes, of course.
John, there was two grants that came out, one from Sustainable New Jersey and one from the DEP. Sustainable New Jersey said that you can apply for private lakes and waterways and storm damage. And that was a February 27 one. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I looked that up. And I thought our grant writer was supposed to assist. And I think, Anthony, you actually asked that the grant writer can assist the association to apply for that grant. And I don't know where it went from there.
Well, Council President, all the research that we did was not for the intended desilting and desnagging. That was what is needed for the lake.
And I believe there's another one coming up for stormwater management that might.
I
fit.
saw that, and the DEP is having a
shake hands, maybe it starts with Washington Township, and maybe they'll follow. Thank you.
Can you actually share those pictures of the potholes, the raised man covers with the council? Thank you. I'll give it back if you need it.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Sears, maybe it would be, based upon the feedback from the residents, I think it would be a positive to maybe have Mr. Yukimic with Boswell put together a proposal on how, an overall town plan, not just the hot areas, if you want to call them that, but maybe a long-term, some sort of a solution. Maybe that would be something, Mr. Sears, I know he's very interested, the waterways you would like to take on. I just a suggestion. I don't know if you've already started something like that, or it's just my rough idea.
If I may, Council President?
Yes, thank you for
There's
asking.
trees that are down on Washington Commons that are laying into the stream. I've walked that stream multiple times with Anthony, with other people. Those trees have got to be pulled out. Went to the Mosquito Commission. They used to do it for us. We were told they stopped pulling the trees out of the streams to open them up, but they will lend us the equipment if we have a share service with the county. I was talking to Bill. We need to have somebody that can operate one of their mobile cranes. I don't know if Bill has anybody to do that right now. I haven't seen him since Friday, but I will ask him tomorrow. Is there a way that we can borrow the Bergen County's crane? It's a small mobile crane with an extended reach to pull those trees out of the stream, and that's going to open the stream up, let water flow a lot faster, and maybe push some of the sill out from underneath that bridge where it clogs. But like I said, we still need to concentrate on the debris that's coming down from above. So you have, when we took the drone from Lincoln Park, we followed the whole stream all the way down to Pascack Road. And that whole waterway is loaded with trees and down. I know exactly where you're talking about, where the property is washing away. I talked to the builders that are working on the adult assisted living complex, and their property actually extends to the other side of the brook. And we talked to them about possibly putting rock up there to support that ground. I have not been back there since that. I will do that and see where we stand.
Okay.
But it does need to be cleaned up. There's no doubt. I mean, you can't have those trees laying in that stream in that brook, And Anthony knows I've been down there, so.
Does it make a comment also? Thank you. Believe it or not, a drone was on my and the administrator's list to ask Boswell about, so I'm happy that John said just this evening that they either have one or have access to one. John,
I'm going to ask everyone to please quiet down a little.
I'll ask your opinion. Is it something that Boswell can do to drone the whole Musquappsink in town, look at least the trees that are in the brook, and give us an approximate work effort that it would take to clear them out?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, John.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, thank you.
Excuse me, Desiree?
Yes.
I'd like to ask the question of the administration. Has anyone contacted the Army Corps of Engineers regarding this? Because they do fantastic work when it comes to jetties and inlets throughout the nation and waterways. They are an appropriate agency to contact. So just a question, maybe Mr. McKimmett can reach out to them. They do have very good solutions for water difficulties. Just a thought.
Mr. Ukimic, is that something that you can do? And Mr. Mayor, can you, it's a great suggestion.
We'll follow up what I've been told in the mayor's meetings from people, at least from the DEP, who show up. So I'll verify this, but I'm going to share that the Army Corps of Engineers now is looking like more regionalization. They won't look at specifically one town. And so that's part of the reason why the mayors are coming up with the coalition that we have. And we're talking about doing an interlocal agreement because, we can talk about it, but until we get an interlocal agreement among all of us, that's what will get things started. But I will confirm that with either John at Boswell or other people in Boswell or independently.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask how often is that on the agenda, and what is the time frame you think before that can actually be operationalized to have?
The mayor's group and the interlocal agreement. Just trying to think. It will probably take about 4 months was the estimate, because getting even 2 towns to agree on something is a challenge. To get 6 or 8 is going to be a challenge. So we're all committed, but each town will have its own say, and so it's not something that's going to happen in a month or 2.
Okay.
Keith Jensen, 133 Woodfield. 3 topics: shared services, 414 Pascack, and my property, 133 Woodfield.
Can you speak up, Mr. Jensen, please?
Speak up?
Yes, please.
All right, let's do it again.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to talk about the shared services, 414 Pascack and 133 Woodfield. See, Mr. Getz, good job over there today. It's pretty impressive. We should hire you. Mayor Calamari, shared services. I've seen where we do, obviously, with that Board of Education, do that, the schools. The gentleman in Westwood, I think Bruce Gary, I forget, he gave a proposal for you for shared services for Recreation Department and for seniors. I was wondering if that's been shared publicly, and if not, can you at least share it with the rest of the board so they can look at that? Because he was saying it was pretty strong. I don't know what it was. Sounded very interesting, especially from both the rec side and the seniors. Why was it denied? And maybe we should look at something like that. Keeping in line with that, if we're doing the DPW, have you guys looked at shared services for that? And if so, what was the results before committing to what you're doing with the DPW in town? Dollar amounts, what other towns you spoke to, why you chose not to go that route. Second topic is 414. You've got a lot of odd parcels around town. I want those parcels that are on my property. I just recently shoveled and de-iced your sidewalks about a month ago when we had that freak storm. Safety issue. I took the initiative on it, but it was your land. But I've been taking care of it forever since I bought it and beforehand. I want that property. I don't know why I can't have the property. You guys ignored. I just sent it to you written. I sent it to you email. I've come over here many times over. We were supposed to have a meeting on it. I couldn't make the meeting. I'd love to reschedule you and Daisy. Thank you very much for that. But that property has nothing to do with 450. It's the lot and
and they went ahead and did it, was they now charge us their out-of-town fee, which is an extra $25 per participant in their programs. So I don't have the math in front of me, but $25 going into 20,000 is a lot of participants. And so I brought the idea to the council. When it was presented by Westwood. It was a prior council, so not everyone who's on here now was on then. And I think it was unanimously voted down, but I could be mistaken on that. Regarding DPW shared services, I ask at almost every mayor's meeting that we have, I asked Wednesday night. Again, it's no town has the space that would be needed to absorb our operations into theirs. It's a space issue, like has been spoken about tonight. No town has enough property in addition to what they have for their own towns, to take us on also, was the consensus. So those are the updates on those couple topics.
Thank you.
Bill McAuliffe, 58 Hemlock. Good evening. I'm not going to take up a lot of your time. First off, I'm the one who wrote the petition that's on change.org. In regards to anybody dropping off any flyers at Our Lady of Good Counsel, I was not aware of it. I did 16 years in Catholic schools. I'll speak to any priest. I will talk to them. I have no problem with dealing with it. Like I said, it's 16 years in Catholic school, so I know how to talk to priests. My petition in 10 days has collected almost over 400 signatures, 432 before I came to this meeting. Those are people who are here in Washington Township, Paramus, Ridgewood, Westwood. They're concerned. They understand, and they live here, the negative impact that the DPW will have at Charlie Brown's. This is going to impact their daily lives. Many of them, all of them are residents, and they vote, and they're going to remember what this is. I want to personally thank every single person who has signed the petition. I also want to bring some information that came to me. I can't take credit for it. That came to me from a concerned citizen. I've been a resident of Washington Township for the last 9 years. The site, as far as I know, at 95 Linwood, which is Charlie Brown's, was exclusively Charlie Brown's. Well, apparently in the 1970s is when it became Charlie Brown's. Prior to that, it was known as Hoogland House in the 50s and 60s. One citizen sent me a picture of Charlie Brown's as it stands today. And then there's an advertisement of Hoogland House way back 40s, 50s, whatever. Now, I never speak in absolutes, so I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty certain. Prior to that, the property at 95 Linwood was a convenience store and a gas station. There's actual gas pumps in this picture. Now, I can do a little research on the internet. I went to nj.gov, DEP, listed the address, and as far as I saw, there's been no remediation. So it's going back to the 30s, 40s, whenever this was a gas station, 80, 90 years ago, those gas tanks could still be on that property. Again, just did a little research. As of New Jersey DEP, our own state website, any gas tanks, oil tanks built prior to 1980, this is a quote, severely prone to links and contaminating land and water. But I'm sure you will do your due diligence. I'm sure you've done your due diligence. But then again, you also say you don't have to adhere to the same requirements as us citizens. But I'm sure NJDEP will like to have a conversation. Again, I don't speak in absolutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will say one thing.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes. You can stay at the podium, but there are some comments to that. Yep.
I can't speak for that far back. However, I do remember as a kid, there was a convenience and gas station on the corner of Linwood and what I call the Ridgewood Road extension. It was not on the actual Charlie Brown's. And don't ask me why this comes to me at random. The name, I believe, was Landmark Motors. And so it was not at the Charlie Brown site proper. It was a couple blocks away from there. Okay, I'm just telling you from my recollection. Yeah. So, but I know for sure. So I'm not saying there wasn't one there, but it could also be confused with the one that I do recall a couple blocks away. Thanks.
Yeah, I will. I just wanted to say that as far as environmental, that's one of the things that we do during the due diligence period. We hire an environmental company. They do go in and do full testing. If there's any indication of any environmental issues after during phase one, they would do a phase two. We have the right to get out of this property if we want to get out of this property based on anything that we find in those investigations. So it's contingent upon all environmental clearance being part of the due diligence period. I just wanted to get that. And I will say I was asked by the council president to say this. I wasn't going to get into it, but disagree with you, Mr. Getz. You're referring to the wrong statute in terms of the limitation of time period. The statute that you're referring to about the resolution has to do with when you have a closed session, you must have the resolution, but there's a specific provision that the governing body just regularly can limit and control the amount of public participation, as long as they allow public participation. Now, the council president did indicate, and rightfully so, that the thought process was to try and get as many people up as possible. And on her own, she has indicated now that the limitation is not here, so that everybody can speak, and there's not going to be that kind of a limitation. So just wanted to get that out there. I wasn't going to get involved with that, but the council president asked me to comment on that. But the DEP will be doing it ourselves. We have a licensed site plan at LSRP that does that investigation. So we make sure that if there is something there, we control getting out of that deal if that's there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Julianne Lipnick, 184 Affinity Place. As a member of Lake Association, Anthony, thank you, and the guys with you for a wonderful presentation. It was incredible. First of all, I'm living here almost 40 years. I know in recent years, we've had robocalls, street closures, what have you. What happened to them? They go away. We don't do them anymore. Today, I left my house to go to Hillsdale ShopRite. It took me almost an hour to get home from Hillsdale ShopRite, right across the street at the shopping center. Ridgewood, Pascack's closed. Finnerty is bumper to bumper. Devon's bumper to bumper. No robocalls, nothing. I mean, what's my house? For an estimate, he was over an hour late. And the guy's office is at the beginning of Hillsdale. I mean, this is absurd. Why are we not getting robocalls anymore? Makes no sense to me. There's a lot of chatter on the street, and a lot of it I don't like. One in particular, I have been told, not just by one person, but several people, that Alex DiChiera, the owner of the shopping center, is coming up to the boards because he wishes to make the shopping center a multi-use facility, putting apartments on top of that building. Now, people we've been talking, especially with the holiday weekend, and I understand that this dates back as far as election time, that this chatter was going on. Is that true? And what do you, as mayor and council, know about it? I know, Mayor, you're no longer in the shopping center. If that be the case, there's not enough parking there for shoppers, let alone putting apartments there. Or is the game plan to throw out the post office so tenants in the apartments can park in the back? I don't know. Anything in town is possible. My other final statement is this. I've been here listening to all the complaints and the reasons why the DPW shouldn't go over on Linwood. What I can't stand is the lip service, and that's what the residents get, lip service. I'm a victim of lip service. When the shopping center was enhanced, 168 feet closer to our neighborhood homes, you were not sitting on council, neither were you, Mayor, but Ken was here. And the lip service was just what I'm hearing. Don't worry, we'll shield it for you. We'll make sure the trees, everything will be fine. We'll take care of it. BS. Come take a look at what we look at. It's a hellhole over there. And Mayor, you came, you met with me, my husband, our neighbors, on your plan for an enhancement there. We agreed. Thank God I didn't give you the permission to chop those trees down in the fall, because the place still looks like the dump. And there's cigarettes and there's liquor bottles, and we know about the urination factor now. It's all gone to hell, and it's lip service. You can tell these residents you're going to shield that building today because you're in charge. And just like Rudy Wenzel and his whole constituency, they're all gone. Who's dead? Who's not in service anymore? Is anybody caring for it? I have it in writing. The first 10 feet of that property is town property. The town put in those trees The shopping center was supposed to maintain them. Did he? No. Vines grew up, killed the trees, and now we look at nothing. It's horrific. I myself spoke to Alex DiChiera not long ago.
You have 1 minute.
And I said, would you ever consider beautifying it like you did the front? Definitely, definitely, he said. Oh, yes, 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 yes. 6 months went by, spoke to him again. Hell no, why would I dump any money over there? If the town wants to do it, let them do it. So residents, I tell you, lip service, that's what you get.
May I, Desiree?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Lipnick. I want to say you're right about the robocalls. I will follow up with the police to see why they have not been going out. It is a good idea because a lot of the utilities are doing a lot of work in town these days. So to the extent that the police get advance notice, I will definitely talk to them. I've heard this, I'll call it rumor for now, about apartments on top of the shopping center. That rumor comes and goes every few years. To my knowledge, there is no application in front of any of the boards, nothing official or even unofficial on that topic, to my knowledge. All due respect, I just want to point out, you said you didn't give me your permission to chop down those trees. I would not need your permission to chop down those trees. They are on town property. Yeah, but I didn't ask for permission. I just asked for your opinion about it. I didn't ask for permission. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have anything? Okay, come on up.
Sorry, I didn't see you.
You'll be next.
I'm Bill Fahey, 29 Sussex Road. I'm also a trustee of the Washington Lake Association. I think it's pretty obvious from all the comments we've heard about flooding in the town. We have a watershed problem within the town. It's not just the lake, it's the streams feeding into the lake, it's the water leaving the lake. If you go by the high school, there's a major tree that's been down since Ida. It's still across it. I believe the school came in and cut off a big chunk of it so they could walk through there. The stream is clogged coming in. The debris falls into the lake. The lake is just a holding basin for this whole Muscupsing Brook watershed. The debris accumulates in the dam, backs up. We pay to get the debris out. It floods out. It's flooding people downstream. It's flooding people upstream. Been here, a resident for 30 years. As long as I've lived here, there's been flooding down around Cosman, been flooding by Sherry Field. The lake's filled up with debris. There's never been a proactive step taken from the town. Instead of reacting every time there's a flood, there's a storm, that we have to spend money, I wish that someone would take a proactive approach and start dealing with it before it becomes a problem. And it's just not happened in 30 years. I'm hoping that this council will be the ones to take the proactive steps and solve the problem once and for all. I don't care about Westwood. I don't care about Hillsdale. I care about Washington Township. And that's the problem we're talking about. The stream, the brook, whatever you want to call it, it's clogged. The debris coming out of the water, some of it's on township property, some of it's from private residents. It accumulates in the lake. We have to pay on a regular basis to have it removed. That is just not fair. If we take a proactive step, this would be solved. And we're talking about 4 months with the mayor's council. That brings us right into a hurricane season. So next hurricane season, if one comes, we're going to be right back to where we were in September of 2021. Nothing's been done, and it doesn't sound like anything's going to be done in the near future. We're talking about another $20,000 that the association's going to have to spend. And that's just not going to fly with those residents. So I would like somehow for this council to take a proactive approach and stop the problem instead of reacting to flooding in the middle of the night. The fire department comes out, does a great job. The DPW comes out, has to address what they have to address. And all those efforts are great. But they're making all those efforts because no one's done the effort on the front end to prevent it from happening to begin with. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute break. We'll be right back. So you can stay, you can come, whatever. We're just going to break for 5 minutes.
Rose Candeletti from 46 Hemlock Drive. First, I want to make a statement about, I went to the town on April 11th and submitted an open request for printed emails and for minutes that had anything to do with the DPW. The response I received was, my request requires more time, and I was given a date of May 18th to receive these emails, which is 5 weeks later. And if I don't get them by that date, it means my open requests are deemed denied. The response for the printed minutes I requested told me that I needed to clarify my request. It was absolutely clear, but I gave more clarifications this morning. This is just a delay tactic, and I'd like to know why you don't want your residents to have access to documents and information that we are entitled to receive. Oprah is supposed to be a 7-day turnaround. Next, I'll start with my questions. Why have you decided to take a rateable property away when you already own more suitable property for a DPW? What is the full amount of the rateable you have calculated that the town will be losing for this property, including the devaluation of properties affected? How do you plan to make up this lost rateable? Have you done a strategic study for this property? A strategic study would show if this is truly the most effective and efficient property for the DPW. If you didn't do a strategic study, how did the mayor and council determine this to be the best location for the DPW? And what studies did you do to rule out all the other properties that you ruled out that you already own? Were these studies, reports, and where are these studies, reports, and statistics that show why you ruled out better suited locations and determined that this site was the best? You have Sherry Field, you have the horse farm, you have the swim club, its current location, and now Paul just mentioned maybe approach the church. Maybe your decision for these other locations was a little biased, maybe because horse farm was near the mayor's, where the mayor resides, and Sherry Field and the horse farm were closer to President Morgan's residence. When I recommended taking a part of the swim club property for the DPW, the mayor and Morgan's response was, we can't do that. We have a tree ordinance in town, and we don't want to cut down our trees. When the two of you made that statement, you both placed more value on a tree than you did on the quality of life of your residents. All of these responses are just your opinion and do not prove or show us that Charlie Brown's is the best location for this DPW. Why were residents not included in the location decisions? And now I want to know, have any of the following studies been done for this location? A logistics, a strategic, traffic, safety, noise, pollution, and environmental? And if they haven't been done, when will they be done? Will they, or when, and when? And when will they be made available for the public to review? Will they be available to the public before you proceed to purchase Charlie Brown's property and not after the fact? The mayor said before that he had no one to merge with, or no one's approached him to merge with earlier. Well, I went to the mayor and council meeting on April 6th. The mayor of Paramus made a statement at the beginning of his meeting because many of his residents were upset, and said that he has been approaching our town for years to merge our DPW with theirs and that they would handle it, but our town has turned him down many times. If we did that, there would be great savings to our town, and that would solve all your issues with the location of your DPW. He did say that the mayor of our town isn't willing to listen to his own residents, so there's really nothing he can say to our mayor that will change his mind. He said he would never take away a rateable property to put a DPW. He didn't think it was a good location for a
1 minute left, Mrs. Candeletti.
Jesus. He also said he would have notified his residents and not blindsided them. So merging is and was another option for you. So why not merge with Paramus or any other town that wants to merge? Like I heard Westwood wanted to merge with us as well. Does the county require the township to do any studies before we put a building up on this road? If so, which studies do they require? When will they be done? And when will they be made available to the public? At the meeting, at the architect, you said that you would be lining up the entrance of the new building with Highland Avenue and putting a light there. Did you apply to the county for a light to put there? Did you get county approval for that light? If not, how can you tell us there will be a light when it's not your decision? The best locations are Sherry Field or the swim club. They could move the ball field to the new swim club recreation property. At these locations, the DPW would be the least daily impact on residents. Their quality of life would not be drastically affected every day like ours will.
I'm going to let you finish your thought, but your time is up. But go ahead.
Thank you. It will also have less impact on traffic and safety issues. Use the current or you could use the current DPW's location. Residents knew it was there when they bought their home, and they should be overjoyed to know that they will be getting a new, prettier DPW, as President Morgan likes to say. The property you want to put the DPW on is not more suitable than the current property, and it will remain in the center of town where it would be more efficient. Plus, you'll be saving a rateable property.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just want to speak to a couple of those things. I'm not sure about the Oprah. I don't know anything about that, but I will ask myself. I'll wait to hear an answer for that.
Right, what you say.
Okay. As far as the tree cutting down, I did speak with Mr. Snyder, John Snyder for Pascack Press. They're putting a revision in there. That was not my statement. That was Council Vice President Feeney who mentioned the tree cutting with the mayor, not me. So no, that was not me. It was in the Pascack Press. I did read it. He is going to revise that.
Tree cutting.
I didn't say anything about tree cutting.
No, when you talked about, you just said about the trees being cut down or something in a certain area in the.
I didn't know, that was.
By the pool. Yes, you just mentioned that. You just mentioned it about, you said. Okay, one person at a time. What you just mentioned, you can go back and read it. I won't go back and forth, but read what you just said before about the alternate sites. I think you said by the pool property.
Oh, yes, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay, no worries. That was misquoted as well as Council President Morgan in the Pascack Press. So John Snyder, who writes for the press, is changing that because that was actually Council President, Vice President Feeney and the mayor who mentioned about the trees and wanting to preserve them, not me.
Okay.
Also, to make a correction, just so everyone knows, I do not live anywhere near Sherry Field or the horse farm. I am actually on the Lake Association myself. So I live on Colonial Boulevard. So it has no bearing on where the location.
Goes down, where the trucks would have to pass.
Right. No, I'm not. Big trucks pass by all the time. Colonial's like a highway. So yeah, no, it has no bearing on that. I just want to clear that out. Again, the strategic study, I'm going to leave that to the mayor or whomever wants to speak about it if they know about it. But those are my comments.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Does anyone else have anything that they would like to?
I do, Desiree. I apologize because I couldn't write as fast as you were talking. I don't have a good shorthand.
I have the questions in writing. You want them?
Yeah, because I was going to say I'll go back and watch the meeting and pause it and jot them down. But if you have them, you save me a few minutes of work. So thank you. Thank you. But I do want to comment about the Paramus mayor. I'm in my 5th year as being mayor. Not once has he reached out to me, and this has hardly been a topic that's been off the radar since I became mayor. One of the first things I did was start to look for a temporary place to put the DPW because we knew the soil out here had to be remediated. So for him to make that statement that, he may have asked previous mayors, he has not reached out to me once on this topic. So that is flatly wrong. And, if he truly said that, he should be ashamed of himself because that's an out and out lie.
Okay.
Studies.
If there's not if we don't have anything at this time to answer, if there's not, Mr. Tovo, I know is not here. If there's no answer on the topic,
I will get you answers for the next meeting, and I hope it's a special meeting. But I don't have answers
So
to
are we
all
going to
these
hold
study
off the
questions
purchase
right
for
now.
as long
we
as
can't go back and forth. I'm sorry.
But you're not answering my questions.
No, you actually are supposed to be seated after if we're going to answer. And no, that's the way that we.
Okay, I'm not allowed to write.
No, you were speaking. You weren't writing. You were speaking. You were engaging, and that's
But
not
you
fair
already
because
answered
I
my
haven't allowed
question,
anyone
yeah.
else to do that. The mayor just mentioned that he was going to answer all of your questions.
You
Okay.
should have all these answers. If you're developing this property, you should have. the
Is there
answers.
anyone else who would like to come up? Okay. Then you can come after.
Tony Plantamura, 808 Robinwood Road. I wasn't going to say anything, but after hearing all this, I do want people to know that I was the first class that ever entered Our Lady of Good Counsel School in 1961. So just so you know, if you want any history, come to me. I'm still here. Second of all, there used to be another dam in front of my house off of Robinwood Road and Washington Avenue that broke in the 60s. That caused a backup up on my house too, which goes downstream. Maybe a solution to the Schlegel Lake that I used to ice skate on there when it was public, and we called it Washington Lake, is to go public and stop being private and let everybody go on there, and we'll share the expenses together, and maybe you can apply for different grants. But this is really what concerns me. I don't know, maybe one day I'll be a politician, and I think I'll do a better job than a lot of you, okay? Because you're not hearing what some of these people are saying. It goes back to the artificial turf field that I fought here for 4 years. You spend a lot of money and you don't think that you have an obligation to ask the people whose lives you are affecting by these big projects, because you're a municipal government and you don't have to. You don't have to notify the residents. You did it with the fire department building, the $6 million monstrosity that's there. Now you're doing it with the DPW. You do it with other projects, spending a lot of money. My daughter was going to take over my house that my parents built in 1956. That's how long I've been in this house. And yes, there was a gas station, Mr. Mayor, you were right, called Landmark. And it was also a Sunoco station. And there probably is a remediation problem over there. Okay. But my daughter's probably not going to be able to afford the taxes, she said, and the upkeep of the house, because we have some flooding issues in my property too on Robinwood Road. But my point here is that when you are spending this kind of money and you are affecting the lives of people that elected you, and then you feel maybe you don't have an obligation to listen to them, which I think you do, maybe you should put all these things to a referendum next time before you go carte blanche and spend this kind of money. I know that if I was living over by Charlie Brown's and all of a sudden I found that I was possibly could have a DPW next to my house, I'd be like up in arms about this too. And these people have a legitimate complaint. They have a legitimate complaint about all the dam problems that they're having and all the trees that are being, that have fallen and they're not getting addressed. And you really need to pay more attention to people. And I do still feel sorry for those people that live by that fire department, because that thing is a monstrosity. It's a monstrosity, and I'm sure you wouldn't want that monstrosity across the street from your house. So my point here is you really need to listen to people. And I know sometimes you try and do the right thing. I don't know what I would do in every situation either, because I'm not perfect either. But to pay this kind of money, I really think that one day I'm probably not going to be here anymore either. Our quality of life is really being affected here. And God, if they put apartment buildings on top of that strip mall, I'm out of here, because I can't take the traffic around here. And who said that? Whoever said about the robocalls and everything, it is horrendous how one town doesn't talk to the other, to think that we have nothing to do, that we could just be inconvenienced going 5 minutes down the road. I don't even want to go anywhere anymore because it takes that much time to get from one place to the other. It is a totally non-lack of committal as far as emergency services go for not trying to coordinate a better job. I told you I owned the Dairy Queen in Emerson since 1963. I just sold it last year, and I'm glad I did, because they had so many road projects. When they did that damn train station over there, I lost $80,000 in a year and a half while they were figuring out how they were going to let traffic pass my store, and I lost my customer base. I've had it. Everybody's inconvenienced now. Nobody's addressing this issue. And I know, Mr. Sears, you were sincere when you said you want to plant a tree, but they're felling 800 trees over on Van Emberg Avenue. And it's like everybody talks about flooding. What about the trees you keep cutting down because of this overdevelopment here? There is no accountability at the state and county level. Shame on them. I don't want any more building in this state. Go build in Alaska. Okay, because I've had it here. I'm stressed out now, and I think a lot of other people are, because we're just overdeveloped here. But I really do believe that you mean sincerely that you want to try and help. But I think it needs to come at the county level and the state level. And this whole Mount Laurel thing that's causing all this overdevelopment, this should have been addressed decades ago by all the mayor and the councils, instead of going, oh, we're going to pay off another town. Well, here it is back at our back door, and all the developers are making a lot of money, and we're all sacrificing for this, and we're bearing the brunt of all this overdevelopment, including the flooding. So it's going to get to a point where nobody wants to live here anymore. And we are the #1 state that people are mass exiting from. So all of the councils need to get together, share services, regionalize. You'd have more money to spend and help us, because it's just really out of control in this state. I'm really frustrated living here now. I used to love it. And ain't when I moved here in 1956, you could barely count the cars going down Washington Road. Now it's like a freaking freeway over there.
Your time's up, but I'm going to let you finish your thought. Okay. Thank you.
Council President, just one response.
It's okay. Come up while she's speaking.
So you're 100% right about Mount Laurel. So there is a movement in the state right now, and I was on a conference call about this. Everybody needs to write to the New Jersey State Legislature, okay? They are the ones who can overturn Mount Laurel and make changes, where it should be the development of a lot should be the percentage of the lot, not the side yards, okay? That's the law that needs to be changed. And you write to your state legislators, write to the senators. Holly Schapese would be more than happy to listen. I know Josh Gottheimer is working on this too. You need to write to them, write once a week, because that's what has to change. Is that law does not change, we are still going to be in the same COA requirement and all the other things. The size of the lots needs to change, where it needs to be a percentage and not the side yards, but it has to come from the New Jersey Assembly. So please take the time to write, because I do, and I call them frequently about this.
Can you post that somewhere online?
I can absolutely post that. I'll post their contact information. I swear, if you write once a week, they'll be so annoyed that they will respond to you, because it's like the Shawshank, right? He wrote 1 letter a day, and then he finally got the books, and then he said he was going to write 2 letters a day next time to get the books. It's the same thing. The only way they're going to want to change things is if you are actually talking to them. So.
Thank you, Council Vice President.
Sherry Benjamin, I live at 50 Hemlock Drive. Just again, a little bit of statement about really listening to everyone, and I'm least as professional as everyone who has talked.
That's okay.
But to be honest, I feel you are contradicting yourselves. Like, you're saying, you were nodding your head when the senator was talking about transparency from the Board of Education, but you yourself were not transparent to us about this DPW. So you are contradicting yourself. You're just saying, oh no, about the Board of Education, but at the same time, oh yes, on the DPW. You're contradicting yourself with the flood and saying, oh, please, Mr. Engineer, go and let's do it regional. And the mayor is saying, oh, the Paramus mayor didn't speak with me. Did you speak with him? Did you initiate that? Like, why are we doing it regional after the fact? Why aren't you proactive in doing that piece? Why are we contradicting ourselves? You're saying about the funding issue that was spoken about last week, and today a simple financial point was a 7.5 million, just that DPW, which is the same size as the current one. And you're not considering other alternative because of financial issues. Again, you're contradicting yourself. You don't know how to optimize your money. You're so happy about this firehouse that it's less than budget, but you can pay more for this DPW and Charlie's Brown. Why are you contradicting yourself? Why are you buying a property and then doing the due diligence right after? Why aren't you doing it before? You are contradicting yourself. Why is that? I work in HR. I put rules. I put processes. I assess people. We assess and then we act upon it. You're doing the right opposite of it. Why are you doing that? I have one small question. Why do you think it's a good idea to put the DPW in Charlie's Brown? Just give me one reason. One reason. Why? Can I have an answer?
When you sit down and you're all done with your statements, we answer.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you. So as you know, I'm not going to have all the answers, but as you know, we have looked at other properties and for whatever reasons, they were not feasible. They didn't pan out or whatever the situation was. We do need a DPW, so we're trying the most viable option we can find. And, we're hearing over and over, you're lying to us, you're not allowing us, you're not listening. We're at the same place we were 2 weeks ago. There has not been a shovel put in the ground. So we're listening. And I don't think it's fair to be berated up here 2 weeks later with the same insults, I think. You're not giving us a chance. You're not even giving us a chance to make any improvements, to have the architect come back. There's been nothing done to the rendering more so other than talking to them and putting your thoughts together and the input in there. So I'm not really sure what your thought process is to what may have changed between the last meeting, which was just 2 weeks ago, and now that we're contradicting ourselves. We were very transparent that we did not send out the notice, right? We didn't send it out. We owned that. That was our fault. We failed. We said that already. We said that 2 weeks ago. So I'm not sure if the intention is to come every meeting and let us know that we failed. We know we failed in that aspect. And for that, I apologize. We dropped the ball on that. I'm not sure what else to say. So if there's anybody else that would like to come up and speak, maybe new business, anything that we haven't, already addressed at length, please
Council
feel
President,
free.
I have one comment back to the resident.
Okay.
So again, about the finances. So the properties that were explored previously, it wasn't about the finances. I just want to make this clear, is that the administration does the planning, right? And then comes to the council, okay, and says, we're exploring this option. What's your opinion? If they do not have the support of the council at the time, they cannot move ahead with the plan. So it wasn't about finances. It was about not having the support of the council that was sitting here at the time. So I just want to make sure that's clear, because that's a lot of things. You have to understand how government works. And these are things I didn't know until I sat up here. So again, it wasn't about finances per se, as it was that we didn't have the support, the mayor and the administration did not have the support of council. So that those properties couldn't move forward.
Okay.
Can I make one quick comment also?
Yeah, you can come up, but the mayor's just going to speak.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
One thing that was said is that the Charlie Brown's is the same size as the current. That is not true. Charlie Brown's is, I think, just shy of 1.5 acres. There is no way that the existing site is even close to 1.5 acres. So that's why you said one reason is it is a bigger site, and it was determined that we could offer the services to the residents that they will expect now and in the future at a larger site.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Tommy Sneed. I live at 772 Cox Peak Avenue. Two things. One, I want to thank Mr. Joyce for his incredible service, but I also want to acknowledge all the folks in the room that are here tonight. As someone who's been doing this at Board of Ed meetings for years, I completely appreciate how hard it is to get up here and speak from the heart and talk about with your passion and your thoughts. So I commend all of you as an advocate. I'd like to thank Senator Shapezi for taking the time to meet with the elected officials and our community members at large tonight here in Township. Any attention we as a community and our elected officials can bring to the challenging new health curriculum, which has been implemented in the WWRSD, is greatly appreciated. As one of the board members who approved this curriculum, I've come to realize that I made a terrible mistake in voting yes, and I was wrong for supporting the curriculum change. I realize the curriculum would have been approved even if I hadn't voted no at the time, but all I can do is admit my mistake. At this point, all I can do is join other parents and hopefully our elected officials, both locally along with state officials such as Senator Shapezi, to strongly encourage the WWRSD, Board of Ed, and our superintendent to revise the portions of the curriculum which seemingly rob our youngest learners of their innocence, force terminology and concepts down to their youngest learners who, in my opinion, aren't capable of processing and understanding what they're being taught. Sadly, we are no different than other communities across our state and country that are seeking to revise portions of the health curriculum which could be better managed by parents during private dinner table conversations. Shifting gears, the last few weeks have brought on a number of rainy days, like tonight. The weather has negatively impacted the practice and game schedule for virtually every team in the township rec and travel teams. The first element to understand is we have no turf fields other than the high school field. Grass fields such as Sherry Complex, KFC, and Memorial don't drain well or quickly. A few days of heavy rain can be a real interruption to the softball, baseball, t-ball, and lacrosse seasons, which are now in full swing. Games will need to be rescheduled and much-needed practices will be canceled. The good news of this point is we have a lot of young families that have moved into town. The bad news is we've had a lot of young families move into town. You've got children that are now playing sports like my kids for the very first time in their lives, and it's amazing to watch. But if we can't get them on the field often enough, these kids aren't going to play cross or baseball programs. But from what I've watched, the girls softball program along with t-ball are absolutely thriving. The grade 1 softball, girls grade 1-2 softball program has 5 teams. Imagine 5 teams of first and second graders chasing around on a softball field. The grade 3-4 program has 4 teams. The girls grades 1 and 2 lacrosse program is just wild to watch. And the 3 and 4 grade teams are so full they actually have to split the teams up. They have too many girls to play. Let me say that again. They have too many girls to play. I cannot speak to the boys, but having watched the girls in grades 5 through 8 in both sports, I can assure you they are equally as busy and there's as many girls playing. Well, why is this important? I would argue that we can no longer ignore the fact that we have a field problem. We need more fields. We need a turf field. We need fields that can drain effectively and efficiently. I request tonight that the board begin to have serious conversations about developing a short-term plan to reconsider laying artificial turf at Memorial, possibly even add a third field to Memorial. Install effective drainage at all 3 Sherry fields. Simultaneously, we need to develop a strategic plan to convert the Washington Township Swim Club to a multi-purpose field that could support soccer, football, lacrosse, softball, and baseball. Why can't we have a facility like DPAC in Oroville? I challenge all of you just to go over and just walk around. Why can't we have something like that in Township? I know this won't be inexpensive or easy. Most things worthwhile typically aren't. We can do this. We should do this. We have a growing population of young girls and young boys. We must do this for them. If we bring together enough dedicated, committed, smart residents, I do not include myself in that group, we can make both of these things happen. The real question is, what's our alternative?
1 minute left, sir.
I would also like to thank Senator Shapezi for joining us again tonight. Knowing that we have her support, the support of Mayor Pete and the council helps us confirm that we can do this. We can create the necessary changes to our health curriculum so that all of our learners can be safe, will feel safe, and can focus on what's appropriate, consumable, and relative for their age group. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mark Candeletti, 46 Hemlock Drive. And you've all said the DPW building is your best option, and we disagree. We know that's not the best option in town for the DPW. Not a single study or statistic that supports your decision or statement that Charlie Brown's is the best location. It's an industrial facility, and it's right in my front door. Okay, so it shouldn't be in a residential area, no less in front of any house in town. The property is triangular and not large enough to turn trucks around or accommodate your proposed building, as well as the operation of vehicles and activities without having major issues for the operation of the DPW. The activities of the DPW are being forced on us and will be devastating effect on every single day and create hazardous and dangerous conditions in our area. Is this really the best you can do? According to Mr. Paula, we have 56 days for you to cancel the purchase contract. You currently rented the DPW space for the DPW, so there's no reason to rush decision to buy this property and have regrets later. So we ask you all again to cancel the contract for the purchase of 95 Linwood Avenue for the DPW and find a better location. And is there any chance that you will cancel the purchase and find a new location? And will the next meeting of the DPW on the purchase, when will that be and open? Or you're trying to just push us off to the next meeting? So are you going to delay the purchase of the property until you get us answers, or are you still going to rush ahead? It's not the design, or it's the location. And, $7 million to build it, and that's not what the wall that you have to build to divide it, and not a wood fence or a PVC fence. It would have to be a wall, like 10, 12 feet high, to block that noise from us. Thank you.
Thank you.
First speaker, he just threw out the second.
So I just want to say for anybody who, that $7 million was a resident's comment. That's not something that, just so everyone is aware, that is not something that we said that it was going to cost. That's not been out there. That was a resident's comment. Okay, not from the seats. We're not doing that. Not from the seats. We're not doing that. You can speak. You can speak. Go ahead. You can, if someone's not going to come up to the podium to speak, are you ready? Yep, sure. Come on up.
Sure. Doug Casado, 2430 Cleveland Avenue. So I wanted to follow up Tommy and Holly's comments on the school situation and then the lake as well.
Okay.
So I get it from a legal perspective. You can't directly impact the school district. But like anyone else, I believe you have a voice, quite a loud voice and platform to help drive change. So I'd ask that maybe consider writing a resolution or a joint email sent to the right people to help drive some noise that more or less we won't support the new health curriculum for children in our community. And just a reminder, right, that's costs no money. It's a very cheap thing that you all can do if you just contribute and put the time in. So as a lake member, switching topics, I moved to the house. I live on the north end of the lake, simply because it's a nice house and it maintained views of the lake. That end of the north end of the lake is basically turning into a swamp very quickly. So yes, it impacts lake members. I get it. It's a private lake. You also know that that lake in our community is a very unique asset, provides really cool views. That's why about 100 people walk around that lake every day. So I think it's really important that we consider working together to solve this issue because, when you drive through the community, you want to buy a house, you see the lake, it is very inspiring. So I thought I'd come here and see a little more doing. I won't be all that bit of a critic about it, but I thought I'd see a little more doing or feel like more was going to be done. So I'll leave you with some comments from a Westwood Regional School District graduate. Be brave and do something. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to come up? Come on up.
Do you have a date yet for the meeting that's going to be just for the DPW?
Yeah, we can definitely, we were looking at May 2nd or May 3rd or May 5th. I know that Council Vice President.
I will be in New York from the 4th to the 6th.
So does the 3rd work for Councilman Casio? You're on mute.
I'm in Florida, so I can make it anywhere.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. I think everyone can make that they're important. Everyone's got a phone. This venue of having a hybrid
Works.
works very well.
Yeah.
Again,
All
you can
right.
make it anywhere, so there's no excuse to be in Africa somewhere. You can still make the meeting. So we're good.
Perfect. So Mr. Tovo is actually not here. He's away until the 2nd, I believe, something. So that's why we were trying to do it. The 3rd will be okay, Mr.
I mean,
Mr. Sears?
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Sears?
I'm fine.
Okay, Mr. Mayor?
I obviously can't speak to Bob's schedule. I mean, I'm 99% sure that, he will be available.
Okay.
But I never know. He may have an off-hour meeting scheduled already. I doubt it, but
Okay.
I just don't want to speak 100%.
Okay.
And I'll make myself available.
Okay. And everyone else. Okay, so we're gonna go with
7:30 here.
May 3rd, 7:30 here. Yeah, and it will be a DPW topic.
Dedicated for this very issue.
Yes. All right, thank you.
Just to be clear, I have meetings till 10 p.m. on the 5th. That's why I can't make it.
The 3rd we're saying, so, okay. Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Pete Maliani, 95 Woodfield Road. I just wanted to touch on a couple things. I don't have any prepared comments, but I did want to thank you for inviting Senator Shapezi to speak to us today. I think that was a great move. The curriculum is something I have serious concerns with. And having 3 small kids in the school system, it's something that I think we need more transparency. I think getting that information out there so that parents are well aware of what's being taught to our kids and what options we do have.
Agree.
I think it's something that a lot of people have concerns with, and any information we can get out to parents and any support from the council with this would be greatly appreciated. I do also want to talk about the lake. My house is actually, the pictures Anthony showed is actually my house. So when we had Ida last year, we spent weeks cleaning it up, me and my wife, before even the Lake Association started to clean it up. We had to, pretty much just take to the backyard, take to the lake, get as much out as we could because that's where we live. And then last week when it rained, we saw, it came up again. It's on my property. And then we saw logs, huge logs and trees coming down the lake. And I'm watching the next day that weren't in the lake the day before. They're now going to end up in my water, right by the dam, clogging everything up and causing problems again. So I know this has been said by many people tonight, but I just want to ask for your support, proactively as we're moving forward to come up with resolutions here because this keeps happening and it just gets worse and worse. And, as we're heading into hurricane season coming up, I mean, we're going to end up in the same situation. It affects everybody. And so just felt I had to say something and I appreciate your time and thank you in advance.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to come up? Is there anyone online?
We have that, we have attendees, we have 16. Yes, we do. We have a couple people.
Couple people, okay.
Yes, we do.
So are you putting them up?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay. I can't see that name.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Andrea DeShora, 552 Hickory Street, Township of Washington. Do you need a phone number?
No, that's okay.
Okay. I'd also like to thank you for having the senator come and speak to everyone this evening. I have spoken to her office, and I can tell you that they've assured me that she is working really hard on the issue of the curriculum in New Jersey. And so I've called the governor's office as well, and I will continue to make other phone calls. I think it's really important for everyone to speak out. The only way they're going to change anything is to hear from us. Secondly, regarding this opt-out situation, where a parent can opt out their child, the problem, as Senator Shapezi said, is that they have embedded or will begin to embed every subject with the sex curriculum that they put forward, and that they will look toward controlling the books and the materials that school districts use. So I don't believe that it can be postponed. I think it has to be completely repealed. And the only way they're going to do that is for everyone to speak out. Secondly, I did go around regarding the DPW side. I go past there many times in my driving around town, coming in and out of the township. And I did go around looking at all the trucks and vehicles and all. And I would concur, just looking at your plans, that doesn't look like there's a lot of width in the property. It goes back deep. And so turning around those trucks and materials, plus I saw a lot of other things on the 3 sites where you have trucks and materials. I saw a lot of other stuff that, to me, it was not mapped out. I don't know where you're planning to keep all the rest of that equipment that I see there now, because there's no space for it in your plan. So that would be a question as to where the plows and like all those, the leaf blower equipment. There's a lot of stuff extra that's around that I see that I don't see any room for on your drawing. So that's question 1. Secondly, regarding the zoning, thinking of the woman that spoke 2 weeks ago, I think she spoke today as well. If I was selling a house, say on Hemlock as a realtor, and they're looking across the street, you always check the zoning of an empty piece of property. Well, that's residentially zoned. Who would ever imagine that a town would take something that's residential zoning and everything around it is residential and put a DPW site? I mean, never in your wildest imagination could you imagine that homeowner you put into the property coming back to you and telling you it's now gone from residential to a DPW site. I think that's a pretty big leap as far as zoning goes. So I think that's a problem. And I think also that someone from 2 weeks ago, and this is my question, say you do move forward, have you considered not taking the turn? If you say there's no light, it's impossible to make a left there, particularly for big trucks. It's impossible for cars to make a left there. All right. So if you're making the right and there's no light, you make the right turn. Someone did ask why you couldn't continue down Linwood. Do not turn on Parkway Court and go through all that neighborhood area. Would you consider going down and making the turnaround on that little stretch on Route 17? You make the left, get onto just a little short section and come up. I think you come on to Van Emberg there, if I'm correct, onto East Glen, I think. Whatever that next street is, that's the major street there.
You have 35 seconds left.
Would you consider that way for the trucks to go? So question is to all the rest of the equipment, and secondly, how those trucks are going to go, assuming there's no light.
Okay, thank you. And we will, if we can answer it, we will, but I don't know if you heard there's going to be a special meeting for DPW questions on May 3rd, 7:30. But we will try, if there's an answer on the dais, please feel free to chime in to her questions. Otherwise, we can discuss it further on May 3rd. Her questions.
Desiree, I'd like to answer her.
Okay.
We talk about making a left out of Hemlock to go to the township. And I know I've tried making a left going down Linwood to get on 17 going north. Talk about a disaster there. That's a tough turn because that's always crowded coming over the bridge. So again, I don't think you're alleviating any dangerous left turns by moving it down to the bridge at 17. Just my opinion. I'm sure other people know that is a hard left to make as well. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yes.
Regarding the topic that Holly spoke about, I had wanted to say this, and you finally saying something gave me the opening. I'm not a big fan of opt-out provisions on things like that, because in my opinion, there's a stigma when you opt out something in schools. You might be treated as that child and, who opted out. And so I'm not a big fan of that. So I agree, I wish they wouldn't teach this at all. It's not age appropriate. And for that reason, I don't even like the opt-out provision. And you mentioned about DPW trucks and turning around. The DPW at its present location, there's no way that anything bigger than a dump truck could turn around. And it's been operating that way for years. So the DPW is used to it. Whenever they get deliveries, they make sure that no trucks bigger than what can be accommodated at the site are used for deliveries. So that holds true to the current site, and it would hold true at the potential new site. Any deliveries they get, they would make sure that the delivery companies know you can't bring a tractor trailer in here because it's not sufficient. Thank you.
Okay, and I just want to say thank you, Mr. Shora, for calling and contacting the governor's office and that fighting attitude. I think that's amazing, and I will join you in that. So I think I speak for most of us up here, if not all of us, when I say that you're not alone in that fight. Okay, is there anyone else who would like to speak? Oh, there's someone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we have Mr. Ullman.
Okay, is he ready? Is he? Mr. Ullman?
Yes, hello?
Yes, hello.
Good evening. Michael Ullman, 2 Clark Avenue. I'd like to first thank you for inviting Senator Shapizi to discuss the important topic. I was wondering, do you have any plans to invite her back to speak about exit 168 and 171? We could use some advocacy to alleviate some of the congestion coming off of 168 and dumping on to Washington. And I'd like to hear her thoughts and if she would advocate on our behalf. I know there was a meeting that they were attempting to schedule. I don't believe it ever took place, and an update on that would be great. The second question, at the 329 budget meeting, there was a discussion about the compensation of the superintendent, and there appeared to be some confusion about the compensation. Ordinance 20-10 had a split compensation of $76,000 and $78,000, depending on certification. Ordinance 21-15 put the salary at $88,000, and it seems that there was a lack of understanding or a lack of understanding of what his compensation was, what it was approved for, and why he was getting less than was approved in the salary ordinance. Has that been resolved? And then I had a question about the 328 budget meeting. There was a bonding ordinance passed, 19-7, that included $750,000 for the radio program in the township. And my understanding was that $750K covered all the studies as well as the new equipment. And there was a request made by the fire department for $142,000 in portable radios, $15,000 for a base station, $15,000 for 2 mobile stations or 2 mobile units, and an additional, if I got my numbers correct, $71,000 for additional mobile units for next year. And I'm wondering, shouldn't that have been covered in the $750K? And if it wasn't, why are we short so much? The next question is, does the police department have any shortfall that needs to be purchased? And lastly, is the DMF being provided radios for their vehicles and personnel to coordinate with emergency responses as one of the pillars of emergency responses with the fire department, ambulance, and fire department? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any answers?
I can try on a few of them.
Okay.
I don't recall there being any confusion on the superintendent pay, but maybe I'm just not remembering it. But I think going forward, the council agreed on an amount. It could be in the past because he was acting superintendent as opposed to regular superintendent, that there was a salary difference between those two positions. So it could be that's why all the money in that line item wasn't totally spent. I'm glad, Mr. Ullman, you recalled the ordinance 19-7. The 19 means that's the year it was passed in. The $750K for the radio equipment back then, I believe, was an estimate. And especially now that we are in 2022, the prices have gone up. We also are getting a better system back in 2019. I don't believe the county, I'm going to say we didn't know that the county would be putting up a radio tower that we would be able to interface with. So we are spending more money than the estimate, but what we're getting for a radio system is much better because it's digital, working off of a very close by county tower. And the DPW radios, I can't get into the technical thing on it, but I'm 99% sure that they will have connectivity with the other emergency services. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Yes, there is.
Not her. That's the person right there. Hello? Are you on the phone? Is there anyone on the phone that would like to speak?
Mary Ann, are you there?
Maybe she just had it up earlier and left it up. Are you on mute? Is she on mute? What's that red button down there?
This is her. She's muted.
She's
on the
muted?
microphone. Yeah.
You're muted, Mrs. Osmond. I wonder if she stepped away.
I don't know, maybe.
Is there anyone else? And we'll go back to her.
No, it doesn't look like there's anybody else.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Can you just clarify the
No,
meeting?
Oh, sorry, go ahead. The
The
meeting
meeting for the DPW?
is on May 3rd at 7:30.
Is it gonna be just design only, or is it gonna be about,
It's going to be questions and answers.
but on the purchase, or just design?
Oh, whatever you guys wanted to talk about tonight that we maybe didn't get to, or you wanted to do a little more in depth or something where we don't have to divide your time between other topics. It'll just be DPW. So did she unmute?
Yeah.
Okay, unfortunately, we're going to close. All right, motion to close public comment?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Okay.
was all.
Just got a hand raised. I don't understand it. I don't know.
Okay, adoption second reading. Is this right? Yeah. Okay, ordinance number 22-08, an ordinance requiring the registration of businesses which remove trees in the Township of Washington. Resolution number 22-218, authorizing second reading and opening a public hearing for ordinance 22-08. Can I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, roll call, Sue.
Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilwoman Feeney.
Yes.
Councilman Sears.
Yes.
Councilwoman Velez.
Yes.
Council President Morgan.
Yes. Okay.
Is there anybody from the public?
Is there any discussion from the public?
I just have a comment.
No one on there either.
Yeah, I think there's just a miss. It's 217 and it's 218.
Oh.
That was it.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a point of order, you can do that. You can jump into that.
Okay.
You can jump in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
There may be an error on the number,
Correct me if I'm wrong, just the resolution says.
I
22.
have to look at it and,
Oh, sorry.
I'll have to look.
What is the?
It says 2217, but
Right.
then on the.
On the agenda, it's
purple, it
22.
says 2018.
22.
218.
I have 17 on the resolution.
Okay, so the agenda's just missed.
I think the yeah, that might be. I will find out.
Okay.
That's up.
Thank you.
Good eyes, Stacy. Okay.
18.
Okay.
Do a motion to open the public and then motion to close the public.
Well, he
Yeah, I already
she
motioned
did.
to
She
open.
opened.
Okay.
It's open.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
So can we, motion to close?
So moved.
Okay. All right, Dr. Casio, you want to second it?
Sure, I second.
Okay. Sue, roll call. That was Tom and
Yep,
Steve.
Steve. Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilwoman Feeney.
Yes.
Councilman Sears.
Yes.
Councilwoman Velez.
Yes.
Council President Morgan.
Yes. Okay. Motion to adopt ordinance number 22-08 at second reading by title.
So moved.
I'll second. Sue, roll call.
Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilwoman Feeney.
Yes.
Councilman Sears.
Yes.
Councilwoman Velez.
Yes.
Council President Morgan.
Yes. Introduction, first reading, ordinance number 22-09, calendar year 2022, ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank. NJSA 40A-4-45.14. Motion to introduce and pass ordinance number 22-09 at first reading by title. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Sue, roll call.
Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilwoman Feeney.
Yes.
Councilman Sears.
Yes.
Councilwoman Velez.
Yes.
Council President Morgan.
Yes. Okay, resolution number 22-218, authorizing publication of ordinance number 22-09 and schedule public hearing. Motion, can I have a second?
Second.
Sue, roll call.
Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilwoman Feeney.
Yes.
Councilman Sears.
Yes.
Councilwoman Velez.
Yes.
Council President Morgan.
Yes. Budget resolution, resolution number 22-219, introduction of 2022 township budget. Motion, can I have a second?
Second.
Sue, roll call.
Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilwoman Feeney.
Yes.
Councilman Sears.
Yes.
Councilwoman Velez.
Yes.
Council President Morgan.
Yes. Okay, the following items have been determined to have the unanimous consent of council and will be enacted in one motion. Should any item require independent consideration, any council member may have such item removed from the consent agenda. Does anyone have any resolutions they'd like removed for discussion? Okay. Resolution number 22-220, authorized payment of bills March 31st, 2022 to April 13th, 2022. Resolution number 22-221, authorized refund of 2022 summer recreation aftercare registration fees to Daniel Della Sera, not to exceed $1,000. Resolution number 22-222, authorize refund of 2022 summer recreation before and after care registration fees to Robin Clifton not to exceed $605. Resolution number 22-223, authorize tax collector to refund certificate number 18-00004 in the amount of $23,010.57 and a premium for tax sale certificate number 18-00004 in the amount of $28,500 for a total not to exceed $51,510.57. Resolution number 22-224, authorize tax collector to refund overpayment of homestead benefit for quarter 2 2022 tax installment, block 4307, lot 10, 529 Cypress Street, in the amount not to exceed $890.92. Resolution number 22-225, authorize tax collector to refund overpayment of quarter 2 2022 property taxes, block 2502, lot 18, 67 Andrea Lane, in the amount not to exceed $1,000. Resolution number 22-226, authorize the mayor to execute Uniform Shared Services and Consolidation Act agreement between Borough of Saddle River and Township of Washington for the shared use of the Borough of Saddle River Certified Municipal Court Administrator. Motion to approve consent agenda resolutions. I will motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Adjournment to conference agenda. I'll motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Ordinances and legislation, sign ordinance and businesses. Council Vice President Feeney.
Yes, so there's been a long-standing ordinance in town that says that there's no signs to be posted at all in any of the businesses in town. From a business perspective, this is a detriment, especially since we have some franchises in town who are required to post advertisements of sales in town. It's part of their charter. In addition, it does allow some residents to know that there are sales going on. My proposal would be, and if Ken could look into it, to adopt or change the ordinance so 30% of the window can be utilized, so that an average of 3 panes, including the door, and there's a pane and a pane of glass here, 1 window could be utilized for advertisements to allow the businesses to conduct business, post sales, help wanted, things like that. Of course, nothing offensive or anything like that in nature, but in order to, with these tough times that businesses are having, they should be allowed to post something. So they're not allowed to put out tents on the sidewalks or post anything outside, but this would give them the avenue to do that. I think that that could be a remediation if they'd like to hear each council person's opinion, if they think that would be okay. 30% of the window, the movie theater should be able to post the time. Somebody could walk up to the window before they open and say, we're having, Hotel Transylvania 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 10 o'clock. So I'd like to know what everybody thinks about that.
I think you have valid points. I think that as long as they are maintained signs and they're not, signs that are like get destroyed because they've been in the sun for so long and they start they have to really maintain them to keep the appearance of it. But I understand what you're saying, and I think that makes sense. That's my opinion.
I would have, sorry.
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't this, I'm sorry, Council President.
No, that's okay.
It wasn't Alex, one of his mother, that they required no signs in their windows at all. And I think
Actually, that's a mistake. It was the town that put the ordinance through, not the shopping center. When I went back and spoke to a few people who were here during those times, it was the council at that time. No, and nobody was sitting here. Maybe Ken was, but I don't know. Who the town put the ordinance up.
I mean,
I don't want to assume Ken was here when I'm trying to consult him, so I'm just saying.
Desiree, may I?
Yes.
I think that you bring up a very valid point. I'd almost like to see it go as high as 40%, because I think 60% open is still enough, because I believe it was always a security thing to make sure people could see inside the store and like that. And also, if the shopping center owner, I won't use names, if he wants to do something, he can then put that in his lease with people. If he's choosing to go he can't go more than what we would say. But if he wants 0, let him work that out with the tenants.
And when I counted the average window, so if like we want to make it like 30 and third, whatever you want to.
Right.
Everybody's typically got 3. I think maybe.
I think originals might have 4.
4 things. I mean, we can't count Food Town. I mean, they've got whatever they got. And but I think the liquor store might have an extra window.
If I may.
Of course.
Yeah, I agree. I think right now, during these times, it's absolutely necessary for them to be able to advertise, their help wanted signs, sales. And also, it's nice as you're walking down to see what's going on in the store without having to go physically into the store. So I would, I like 30%, but if we could raise it to 40%, I think that's also fair. You still have 60% clearance.
I think 50% is too much because it does leave that to interpretation.
I don't know if, Ken, it's more a legal question. I think if we can do a carve out, because I heard that some of the store owners were hesitant to even put up like flyers that the town may ask them to put up for events. Maybe that can be a carve out where it doesn't factor into the
Good idea.
percentage.
I think that was a question because they're always very accommodating and helpful.
Yeah, but I don't want that to say, all right, that contributes 5% to their 30 or 40%. So if it's a temporary, we'll word it the right way.
So I'm just curious, has anybody talked to the shopping center owner about what he would like to see? That's.
But it's not just the shopping center. It doesn't apply to all the property businesses in town too.
What I'm saying is if you're saying you could use 40%, I mean, you could do an ordinance that says, any commercial use in the commercial zone can use 40% of their, window pane, whatever. That doesn't mean it's gonna be 40% or anything. I mean, it's up to the shopping center owner to allow that under his lease. It's the lease that really governs, not the ordinance. Okay, the ordinance sets the max or prohibits it. But as far as, within the spectrum of what you're allowing, the shopping center owner would be the one to determine that. I also want to raise a couple of other issues, which was just not to not do it, but just to think about it. So you're talking about, is it contiguous 40%? Is it one here, one here, one here? As far as maintenance is concerned, Desiree raised a very good issue. Who's going to determine, how are you going to determine when it gets old and cruddy and should be replaced? Also, what kind of signs? Is it going to be a neon thing shooting out? Is it going to be plain flat? Is it going to be lettering? So I think it's not that it's a bad idea. You can't just decide tonight, okay, do it. And then, I think next meeting, maybe come with a list of things to discuss, to go into in a little more detail.
Well, there are probably ordinances.
There's some ordinances in the packet that I thought.
I understand, but what I'm saying is, all I'm saying is that, okay, if you want to discuss those and decide tonight,
No,
that's fine.
so back to my question though. So the ordinance that's written now says no signs, period.
Right.
It says nothing, it
Yes.
says
Yeah.
nothing.
And I believe
about that, right?
it was the township that put that.
That's what everybody's telling me. So I can only go up on that. So I'd like to see it be that it's, I think it should be one area, one window, so that there is clear view in the other windows and it doesn't block up the other windows. I think that's how it should be written. Because then it does leave purview for safety to go in when the police drive by, or something else is going on, people can see. And I think it should be one section. I don't know if it's one section, whatever.
No, I think we'd make it as contiguous would be the term.
So in the same section.
But I mean, okay, I just want to make sure we're starting to focus in on some of these things.
So, and it says, like, if it doesn't call it like a decrepit sign, but it says that it cannot be deteriorating.
Okay, and who's going to determine that? Building inspector, code enforcement official?
code.
Yeah, Daisy, what were you gonna say?
I mean, I think, let's give our shopping center people a little credit. I think they do a pretty good job of taking care of what's there. So we could be
And the
general.
other thing is, if it is an ordinance, our code
What
enforcement.
about neon
Yeah,
versus?
maybe for,
I don't
like,
think neon or, because we do have some, I think like.
I'm
the
just
old-
asking, yeah.
No, I am of the opinion that a neon sign would be okay as long as it's not detrimental to the community.
I think an open sign doesn't need to be neon.
No, I don't think, but if they want it, I'm okay with them having
I
it.
mean, do we have,
There
prior
are.
to the cleanup, was there a neon sign?
Yeah, there is one that there's an open, two of them have open signs that flash open. I think it's over the door. I don't know.
I think this is definitely a good topic of discussion to be.
So in here, I think I have two more at home. I didn't, so I'll pull some out and send them.
Just at the next meeting, maybe what you come is, everybody could have a list of things that they thought about and throw them out, and you can decide yes, no, and then we'll come up with an ordinance to change it, to implement it, okay?
The one thing I did like is that in the one ordinance from Ramsey, they do have a section I'd like to put in about temporary signs, which I think is, really handles, the language is very well written. It talks about like what the mayor's talking about signs for, like if you're selling chocolate for baseball or what have you. So it talks about like, community information and things like that. So I think that's.
So the question becomes, if you give them 40% of their regular signage, then do you give
That would
another
exclude.
percentage for how much more percentage for Girl Scout cookies and, softball games?
This says
and stuff
10
like that?
square feet of another existing window. That's kind of like, I don't know how,
I don't know how big they are.
you don't know, it's 100, whatever, 10 by 10, right? So anyway.
So what's the
So
plan?
I think what you should do is give this, you just got your packet with these ordinances, and now you have the concept, and pretty well everybody's on board with at least starting out with 40%, or at least looks like they're.
40 would be max.
Yeah, okay, max. Okay, you have to set the max.
Yeah, 40 would
I
be.
think
So-
40 is a good math.
So if that's what everybody wants, and then just come with going through these ordinances, plus your own thought process of what you want to see in the signs, in terms of limitation or freedom to do certain things.
But you're saying that even with this ordinance, it would still be the property owner's
Of course.
decision. So
Yeah.
it could be for,
But it gives him the opportunity,
Okay.
and he may want to do that. He may want
Okay.
those things.
He may do nothing too.
He may prohibit it, or he may say, great, put it all in there, or he may have his own, but you're at least putting what's permissible in town.
okay.
Sue, could you add this to the May 2nd agenda then, please?
We're already on it.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So the basic reason for this is to promote commerce, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So are we talking all commerce in the town, or just retail, professional? What are we talking? Encompassing everything?
I think the start of it is all the commercial zones,
Okay, so there's only the commercial zone.
commercial zone.
Okay.
If you look at the first part of the, in your packet, it talks about the types of
I see it.
applicability that it applies to.
You're talking about parameter.
And the Ramsey one.
Fine. We don't need, our job is to expand commerce. That's what we should consider, and not limit anything. And I think, when we did the last one with the shopping center, we had that so restricted with,
Colors.
kind of blue lettering,
Right.
will be so high, and that was very restrictive to, especially the chains that we had in there,
Right.
donuts, Subway, and all that. And I think that really made a great impact at the time. And then we also had problems with the banner signs at one time. They were all over the place, and it didn't look too becoming in the township. So again, I know we're talking about just the signs in a window. I just want to make sure that we recognize the other forms that they have used in the past, and we keep it, I guess the word is homogeneous, as much as we possibly can. You know, again, we want to expand commerce to ensure our businesses do well, because that attracts goodwill to the township overall. So again, if we keep that in mind, I think we want to be as general as possible, but obviously keep it within some type of restrictive limited size itself. So those are my general comments.
And I can send out the current ordinance, which is like Councilman Cassio was saying, very restrictive. So I think this will promote, it'll help, like we have Subway. Subway has a requirement that they need to be able to post signs for their franchise. They can get a penalty. I don't think that that's something we want to impede, and we want Subway to stay in town and keep doing business and servicing our residents.
Okay, so we'll look it over and then come back for the next meeting with suggestions for you to put in the ordinance. Okay. Okay, and then miscellaneous clean up the brook and flooding, Mr. Sears?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna do a general cleanup. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we're going to do a April 30th part of our clean water commitment with the state. Pick a stretch of water to clean up. So we're gonna do along the brook from Pascack Road down to the bridge. As much as possible, and it's going to be plastic bags, bottles, debris. We're not pulling trees out of the lake. There's a ton of plastic bottles and bags that are at the Pascack Road where it drops down into the Bethany waterway. So we're going to be cleaning that whole waterway up all the way down to the bridge. So that'll be our 2022 commitment for waterway cleanup.
And that is,
That's at 10 a.m. to 1. We're going to meet down at the Bethany Community Center parking lot.
and the date again?
April the 30th.
Okay, great, thank you. And then the next one's yours, 2 abstentions.
Yeah, I just need a clarification. Because when I look at Robert's rules, an abstention, it doesn't go for the majority vote. It says your abstention is basically a non-vote. So if I have 2 people that vote yes for something, 2 people that vote no for something, say an ordinance, and a person abstains, that abstention doesn't go for the rep, yes. It means that ordinance doesn't pass when I'm reading through the Robert's rules and records. So I just need a legal interpretation on, am I reading this right? Is that the correct way of how you vote? Because I know for a while, they're saying, well, okay, he abstained, so it goes with the yes people. But when I read this, it doesn't say you go with the yes.
I think it goes with the majority.
No, let me jump in, right? Okay, so I'm gonna try and make this, kind of go through this, because to tell you the truth, this has always been a pet peeve of mine anyway, about this the abstention going with the majority. I personally don't feel that that's appropriate, because I feel like if somebody doesn't want to vote, it shouldn't be counted. However, I just want to go through the scenario of how this operates, okay? So, and I think you have to understand that you have to go with the statutes first, and then you go to, what your code has done and so forth. So let me just take you through this just a little bit, and then maybe you can decide if you want to change what it is right now. So you start out with the 4069A-180, which is a procedural rules of procedure, quorum ordinances for our form of government. And it says here, the council shall determine its own rules of procedure, not inconsistent with ordinance or statute, okay? So if there's a statute which requires something, you can't say it requires less, with the rules and so on and so forth. So you start out with the statute. Our code, the council pursuant to the statute did enact its rule, and its rule is at 7-28, abstention or disqualification from voting. Voting silence or an abstention shall be construed as a vote with a majority, except where a member disqualifies himself, in which case he shall be considered as absent during such vote. So there was a rule that was adopted pursuant to statute, doesn't violate any other rule, that said that, and the council, whoever enacted this code at that particular time, and I'm sure this goes way back, decided that the abstentions would be with the majority. But it doesn't have to be, but that's the rule. And if that's the rule, then that's the rule, until it's changed, which you can do. The Roberts rules kicks in only afterwards. If it's not covered by any of our other rules, then there's a default to the Roberts rules, okay? And Roberts rules has, a whole host of things. I mean, it must be very thick and motions or whatever. But I just want to tell you that this thing about abstentions is not clear, and it's certainly up to what you want to do. And I just want to read a little bit from a case because I think it points out about abstentions, and it's something that I think you can all, everybody can learn from, including me. And I think that maybe it is time to re-examine abstentions because, again, if somebody doesn't want to vote and they're not saying they recuse because they have a conflict, they're kind of in a quandary. They say they abstained, they think they didn't vote, next thing you know, they're voting with the majority. And that person, he or she may want a negative vote or not to vote. So I just want to read a little bit from this case because I think it was good. Historically, our courts acknowledged a general rule for treating abstentions as affirmative votes when the majority vote of a governing body was required for enactment of a measure. But as the court observed in this other case, when non-voters do not merely remain silent, but instead express themselves as not wishing to be counted as in favor, then the common sense of the matter seems to be that they should be recorded in the negative. Exceptions to this general approach have been recognized. For example, when abstention is due to a disqualifying personal or financial interest, courts have held that the abstention is not considered acquiescence in the majority and should not be considered an affirmative vote. Additionally, it has been held that when a statute requires a specific number of actual affirmative votes for a majority, abstention should be recorded as negative votes. You see where I'm going with this, right? In the final analysis, very few clear patterns can be discerned from these decisions. Indeed, the New Jersey Law Revision Commission recently recognized that the current state of the law is complicated and has sought to clarify through currently pending legislation that abstention should be treated as neither yes nor no votes, because currently under New Jersey common law, there are circumstances where abstention is interpreted as either a yes or a no, and in reality, a person who abstains does not intend to cast any vote, affirmative or negative. The case goes on and talks about, how this is not it's not a matter of law what an abstention is. It's really open and there are different circumstances. So I would say to think hard about maybe changing our rule so that an abstention is what everybody thinks an abstention is, which is to abstain and have no vote. And you would do that by just doing an ordinance, changing your code. That way you would have a yes vote, you would have a no vote, you would have an abstention, which would be no vote, and you could have a recusal, which I would recommend that you keep as a conflict or something that prevents you from voting. It's just a thought. I know Tom raised it. I thought I'd have it here when I saw it on the agenda. So it's just something for you to consider.
Is there anything in Faulkner that gives guidance on,
Sorry, Steve, I'm sorry.
abstentions?
Faulkner doesn't say what abstention is.
It doesn't, so our.
No, I read what it says. It's as long as there's no, it's that statute I did. Faulkner is 4069A180.
Right.
And that's what it says. Council shall determine its own rules of procedure. And the case I read from went exactly to that question of what did that council say in that case.
What was that case name?
Booker case.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilman Calcio, you had a question?
Yeah, Ken, you said a yes vote, a no vote, the abstention is, you said a no vote.
A no vote,
And
and a recusal.
A vote, wait, let me take that back. You said an affirmative, a negative, a non-vote, and a recusal, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Yes.
That gives everybody the whole gamut of what they choose to do.
Yeah, okay. Fine.
Okay. Okay.
So are we doing that then? Is
Well,
that-
I think it's what you want to do. I mean, you could think about it till the next meeting, or you can do it now, or you could do whatever you like. I just,
Can we poll, we can poll some towns and see what the,
I don't think you can poll towns this.
well, no, but I mean, like, by looking at their ordinance.
I don't think you need to do that. You either like to change it, or you don't want to change it. I mean,
Well, I'd like to see what other towns are saying that they're doing.
Why?
I'd prefer not to change it.
Why look at the other towns? I mean, just because Paramus decides an abstention is a
Just,
no vote or yes vote.
just because I'm only 2.5 years on council and I would just, sometimes I like to do some research.
Okay, so don't decide tonight.
Well, I mean, I don't know, if everybody else has it, I'm just letting you know, I just would like to.
All right.
Does anybody else have an opinion?
Just to question why, I don't know if I can, but why would you not want to change it? Just trying to see both sides.
Because currently, as it sits right now, because to change it, it means we're going to be at like a
We
stalemate.
end up being at a stale, yeah.
Right. At least there's a decision made at the end, the way it is right now.
Okay, so it's what you're saying, you like it because it forces a
Decision.
I see.
So if it actually forces somebody to vote no versus to abstain. If
Right,
somebody wants
right.
to be against something. they have
Right,
to
then
vote
be against it. If you really want to be against it, then put
Be
your
against
money where your mouth is and be against it and explain why if you feel so compelled. If not, then go on the record as saying no. But abstain is like you're hiding behind abstain. That's my opinion. That's why I say just leave it.
Well, I have a different opinion.
I'm sure you do. I didn't mean anything. I'm not
And
blanketing it. That's me.
That's the opinion now.
Yeah, that's my opinion.
If
That's
you have a different opinion.
Yes.
And here's the opinion, I'm gonna give it to you.
Okay.
Straight,
There are some things that a council person can go either way with, okay? And it affords that person to say, well, if 3 people want it, I'm not going to block it as a 4th or 5th. So there's some things that to a council person, it doesn't matter either way. There are some things, some votes that we do that are just cursory, that doesn't have a lot of weight the way the government is run, to be quite honest with you, in a lot of ways. And that affords that person to do that, whether they're for it or not.
No, I agree in that.
Do you like the green or the blue one? Well, I really don't care. You want it green or blue? It doesn't
Right.
matter to me.
The only time that
that's where that one comes in, to be quite honest with you.
I agree.
You know?
I agree in that scenario. But if we changed it, Steve, then it would be, it could cause like a stalemate where you can't move it forward.
Oh, exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
it could definitely cause a stalemate. Now you have 2-2 and an abstention, right? So now you're back in the same thing. You might as well have 6 people or
Right.
an even number of people on the dais, and 3 go one way and 3 go the other way. So you still have the same.
Exactly. Which is why I think we should leave it.
Oh, exactly. I agree with you. And if you look at most, and I know Ms. Feeney likes to do research, and if you look at most towns, that's how they count it. Though I know the case that Ken's citing, it's a citing. It's a very famous case because the problem has come up numerous times in all different forms of government. To be quite honest, you have more often in the Faulkner, because we have a lot of forms of government, like in the borough, and some Faulkner forms or alternate forms where the mayor has a vote as well as a tiebreaker. So again, Faulkner is a unique animal unto itself, as Ken will tell you that.
All right, so just to clarify, so the way it stands right now, a decision is made. Should we change it, then you have the possibility of.
That's my question. So just just do me, just to level set. So if we change it and there is an abstention, that's part of the voting process.
If you change it so that abstention does not count, I mean,
Well, that's my question. Do you change, is there a way you change, is the law changed or the ordinance changed so that the abstention has no value?
right.
That's what
That
happened,
abstention is what abstention means.
which is just nothing.
Abstain means to abstain. Abstain means to I'm doing nothing.
And currently it goes with.
Now, there's a rule that says that vote, even though it's an abstention, is going to be counted with the majority under under the ordinance, that the code that's in effect.
And the decision is
And they're
made.
recused?
Recuse is if you
No, I
have a
know,
conflict.
but if you don't have a conflict and you recuse yourself, is that actually allowed or no?
I have not researched whether somebody can challenge a recusal. It could arise sometime. I haven't run across anything like it, but who knows?
Just curious.
Yeah.
But you can never tell what someone's personal business is when you recuse on a subject.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And that business should not be made public. Let's say you're doing something with a building, and a distant cousin of mine is a contractor on that site.
I'm not going to tell anyone that he's a contractor, right? I wouldn't want that to get out because it would hurt him. It might hurt the building project. And so I would definitely recuse, but I don't have to tell you why I'm recusing. And I don't think that should be a requirement.
That's not.
That can go for anything.
Requirement, right?
So my
No, it's not
suggestion, my suggestion is think about it. It's been raised now. Think about it. It doesn't have to be decided tonight for sure.
I mean, you're not required to explain yourself with any vote,
Yeah.
period. So I don't think that should ever change.
Okay,
Desiree, although it's a council matter, may I just make a quick comment on it?
sure.
I think members of the council should be a little more careful as to how they use abstentions, because an example was just thrown out. I forget the colors, green or blue, I don't care. But however, when you're voting on budget items, that makes a difference on. That's what the council and myself are up here to do. And so to abstain on like budget items, that really shouldn't be done because we all have skin in the game with the budget. And so abstentions, in my humble opinion, should be used only on very limited basis, but, certainly not budget items where, we're all here to guard against taxpayers' money and spend it wisely. And so I would just ask the council if whether you change it or not, use your abstentions very reserved and limited.
I'll just.
I always do, Peter.
I wasn't referencing anyone in particular.
I also want to say that, and I've read some things about the philosophy of abstentions also, is that when you are elected to a position, you're elected to act, and abstentions is the contrary of that. And so some of the thought process of having an abstention is to say, you're on the board, you're on the whatever it is, you're supposed to make a decision, and unless you have a conflict, you're going to have to make a decision. If you don't like it, vote no. If you can't just sit back and say I abstain, because that's going to be kind of a majority. So if you don't like it, then vote no. That just comes up in the research of what it's all about.
It is a good point. That's a good point the mayor has too.
So think about it.
Okay. Resolution number 22-227, land acquisition negotiations, 464 Ridgewood Boulevard North, Swim Club, litigation, Washington Township.
It's a motion to go into closed session, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going through that.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
No, you didn't say closed session, that's why.
Oh, it's gonna, right after I
Oh,
announce
okay.
what we're doing.
Sorry.
It's okay. Washington Town Center, litigation and tax appeals. Motion to enter into closed session.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and council will not be reconvening to the public.
No,
No,
can,
right?
no?
Do we need to?
No.
Okay.
It says will.
I know.
He changed his mind.
I changed my mind because something changed.
Yeah.
so
And
I'm
that's fine.
changing my mind.
Okay.
You will not be.
We will not be reconvening to the public.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night.
Adjournment. Oh, we're not adjourning.
Well, you are.
Well,
You
that
are
piece,
technically.
we have to wait for.
We gotta wait for Ricky and,